So good morning and welcome to the gathering at 8:40 for the Women's Retreat here today. So we thank you so very much for taking time out of your day to come and to be refreshed, restarted, and restored by some nuggets that are going to fall into your lap. We have a great agenda aligned for today. And so if you have not, please, number one, get your name tag. Number two, there's a basket out there in the front that has these little bags in it. And these little bags are filled with lots of goodies. There's a little notebook in there and a pen and everything for you to take note from today's session. Just some logistical things. To my left, to your right, are our restrooms that are past the coffee bar. So they're right over there. Security note is please do not go out this door, which is on my right, your left. Please do not use this door over here. For whatever reason, Shorty said to me, he said something to me, he was like, I'm like, okay. So just don't go out that door. The other thing is that we have an agenda that is jam-packed, and so if we could just be a little cognizant of our time that we have allotted for today. We don't want to run over or make sure that we are keeping on track and on task with everything. So we will get started. Breakfast was continental over there to the corner with pastries and everything. So we have dessert tables and we have a full gamut of soups of all kinds. And I mean all kinds. We have cornbread, we have jalapeno cornbread, we have all kinds of desserts and everything. So thank you all for your contributions that you've made for today. So I'll open this up in prayer and then we will get started with our program. Let me just say this prior to. I need y'all's prayers because my legs hurt. They are aching. Our speaker is an author along with some other talents that God has blessed her with. I've got some in my the other talents that God has blessed her with. She has a table with some merchandise and some items out there on it in the lobby. And so one of the books that she has is Jenny's Journey, and it's from black and white to vibrant tapestry. So this is one of the books that she has out there on the table. And then the other one that Michelle blessed me with is this one. This is When You're Ready to Begin. It is a 13-week journey through a season of rising. And so it is filled with lots of encouragement and lots of seeds that can be planted and deposited into your soul. So those are the two books that are out there. We do have these t-shirts that I'm modeling, and the size that I have on is a large, and they're out there for $25. So cash, credit, whatever is out there for you to purchase on the tables. So let me open us up with prayer and we will begin our program. Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and we thank you for this opportunity to come together, to worship together, and to praise your holy name. We give you all of the glory, majesty, and honor and dominion. We would like for this time, Father God, for your favor to shower down on us, for us to receive the word that you're going to have come through Dr. Caroline Kennedy. We pray that you anoint her and that you bless her with the message that she's going to give us today. Father God, help us to come together as sisters in Christ to encourage and motivate, uplift, and to walk alongside each other, to know that we are daughters of the King and that we are here to receive your blessings, arms stretched wide open to receive what it is that you have to give us today. So, Father God, we just ask this in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Usually my joke in something like this would be, well, my hair fits in, but I chopped that off recently. So. If we could, let's stand. I know it's a little early in the morning. Hopefully everyone's had their coffee. If not, music will be our coffee.
mountains bow down and the seas will roar at the sound of your name. I sing for joy at the word of your hands. Forever I'll love you, forever I'll stand. Nothing compares to the promise I have in you. Nothing compares to the promise I have in you.
You know, we have a good Father that watches over us all. Let's celebrate that. I've heard 1,000 stories of what they could like, but I heard the tender whisper of love, the dead of night, and you tell that you are pleased and that I'm never alone. You're a good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. And I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers. Only you provide, 'cause you know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. Love so undeniable, I can hardly speak. Peace so unexplainable, I can hardly think as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still into love. Love, love, you're a good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good Father. Oh, it's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. Y'all sing it. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are
Perfect in all of your ways.
Oh, yes, you are.
Perfect in all of
To us. You're a good Father. Who you are. Sing it out. Oh, it sounds good. What a wonderful declarations that is. And we can have a good Father, but if we don't trust in Him, what good is that? Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. He's been my fourth man in the fire, time after time. Born of His Spirit, and I'm washed in His blood. And what He did for me on Calvary is more than enough. I trust in God, my Savior, the one who will never fail. He will never fail. I trust in God, my Savior, the one who will never fail. He will never fail. Perfect submission, and all is at rest. I know the author of tomorrow is ordering my steps. So this is my story, yes it is, and this is my song. I'm praising my risen King and Savior all the day long. I trust in God, and I trust in God, my Savior, the one who will never fail. He will never fail. I trust in God, my Savior, the one who will never fail. He will never fail. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. I sought the Lord, and He heard.
And He answered.
I sought the Lord,
And He heard, and He answered.
that's why I trust Him. That's why I trust Him. I sought the Lord, and He
And He
heard.
heard, and He answered.
I sought the Lord, and He
And He
heard.
heard, and He answered. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered.
That's why I trust Him. That's why I trust in God, my Savior, the one who will never fail. He will never fail. I trust in God, my Savior, the one who will never fail. He will never fail. Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take Him at His word, just to rest upon His promise, just to know the say the Lord. Let me hear it now. Jesus, Jesus,
I trust Him.
how little emotional up here because I'm going to take the freedom for a second, if that's all right. I don't get this opportunity very often to speak to a room full of the foundations of all of our homes. I grew up in a house with a mother that was a prayer warrior, and I remember learning how to pray because I didn't want to go to hell. I could hear my mom praying in the other room, Lord, if he's not going to live for you, take him now. I'm not suggesting to do that to your kids or to your grandkids, but it stuck with me. And she is still to this day one of the biggest prayer warriors that I've ever known in my life. And y'all are that. For this church, for your families, you are that backbone. And I want to brag on my wife. She wouldn't hate me to say this, but I wake up most mornings to hearing her downstairs praying and reading her Bible. It inspires me. Us guys, we get stuck in making sure that the family's fed, making sure that the money's coming in. And we get a little sidetracked. And y'all are what keep us down those navigational beacons. And this song right here speaks to just that. Trusting in Jesus, you have the ability to keep that going for our families, and I just love it. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust you, how I prove him more and more. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust him more. Hey, brother, I think I gave you the wrong song right there. It was supposed to be Waymaker. You're worthy of it all. You're worthy of it all. For from you are all things, and to you are all things. You deserve the glory. Sing it as a prayer. You're worthy of it all. You're worthy of it all. For from you are all things, and to you are all things. You deserve the glory. Sing it one more time. You're worthy of it all. You're worthy of it all. For from you are all things, and to you are all things. You deserve the glory. Thank you guys so much for joining in on some praise and worship there. I do not have a list of schedule, but yes, ma'am, if it is your turn, come on up. Here we go.
Very good. All right. Does this work? Short. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, ladies, this has been an absolute treat already this morning, and I'm so thankful for you all being here. Taylor and Craig, thank you for the beautiful praise and worship and setting our hearts for today. I certainly appreciate that. But when you pull off an event, it takes a lot of people, and so Denise, thank you for partnering with me for this to happen and bring this together today. Zane, thank you for all the phone calls to pull off sound for us today. I certainly appreciate, and all the volunteers who helped, and all the beautiful soups I can't wait to get into. And these beautiful shirts. Jen Baltimore, our resident artist, did the design, and I absolutely love them. So thank you, Jen, for sharing your talents. And my daughter did the printing to bring her artwork to life. And then my husband, Mike, and Mr. Bill are out there giving us security. They've cleared the building, so thank you for taking care of us. But for today, we have the privilege of having Dr. Carolyn Kennedy join us and speak. You've seen the agenda, you've seen her video, you get to hear her live and in person. But I do want to shout out two of my friends that are here today, April and Elizabeth. They were on the PMI Nashville Symposium volunteer team and the speaker committee that we all had the opportunity to interview Carolyn. She spoke for our event, and the Lord just laid her on my heart to bring her to us today. So, a little bit about I wasn't expecting to have my microphone in a different spot, so give me a moment. So one of the things with Dr. Kennedy is that she is a lifelong educator. She's been a teacher, she's been a principal, but for us, she's also a Christian author and speaker. And so we've all probably been to many events, many Christian authors and speakers, but I will tell you, this book I went through in August, in 1 month of the Bible study. And it just blessed my heart. I felt the calling to refresh and restart as 2026 began. And that's going to be the story that we have today. So Dr. Kennedy is an author and speaker passionate about igniting transformation through stories and meaningful connections. Carolyn's journey, marked by unexpected turns, has taught her the power of embracing new beginnings as opportunities for growth and fulfillment. She believes that within each of us lies the potential to rise above challenges, cultivate our inner strength, and live life of purpose. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Good morning. I feel like I'm echoing. Am I echoing for you guys? Before we begin, if you will indulge me, I'd like to be able to open with a prayer. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to come into your house this morning. Thank you for the opportunity to gather together for fellowship. Father God, I pray that you speak through me, that you hide my words, and that you speak through me and help me to impact, to uplift, to encourage every woman, every man, every individual who is in this place today. Lord, be with us. Bless this event. Bless those people who put it together and those who are here to attend it. Father God, we put it all in your hands, all for your glory. In the precious, mighty, holy name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Good morning. Gathering at 8:40. This is my first opportunity to come and be here. Love it. Absolutely love it. I walked in and Michelle had the whole place purpled up for me, and I absolutely was like, ah. So I felt like I was at home the second that I walked in the door. Again, I want to thank you all for coming today to spend a little bit of time with me and a little bit of time with each other. And I'm hoping and praying that we all get something from this, that we have an opportunity to lift up each other, to pour into each other, and to impact each other. The first thing that we're going to talk about this morning is navigating transitions with grace. When you think about transition, when you think about change, what emotion comes to your minds first? Anybody? Nobody. So no one in the room has ever gone through change. I need to know your secret. Fear. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. I can't hear you. Uncertainty. Yes. Anybody else? Anxiety. Yep, you might be in my head. Anybody else? Procrastination. Resistance. Awesome. So all of these different feelings. Do you think it matters if it's just a big change or if it also impacts if it's a small change? Is everybody comfortable? Good, let's fix that. Please stand up for me. I want you to take 4 steps to the right. Doesn't matter whether there's a chair behind you or not. Take 4 steps to the right. If there's a chair behind you, please sit down. That small shift, are you still comfortable? Because you're not, you said yes. Some of us cheated, but I won't call us out. Some of us cheated. We didn't go just 4 steps to the left. So if you're left standing, how do you feel right now? Anybody? I can't hear you. You want to sit. But how do you feel? Not just what do you want, but how do you feel? Awkward. Why? Why? Why do you think we feel awkward just simply doing this? You weren't prepared. Awesome. You feel out of place. And for those of you that are standing, do you feel like everybody's staring at you and that you're the oddballs? Thank you for indulging me. You go ahead and go back to your seats. So I have characteristics of both ADHD and OCD, and they fight. So it's like I want everything to be very structured, very in order. But it's like, oh, purple, sparkles, squirrel. And it doesn't last. But there's certain things that bother me. Change is one of them. I work, as Michelle mentioned, I've been in education for quite some time, actually over 3 decades, which is difficult because I'm only 29. So the fact that I've been in education for over 29 years, means that it's the new math. And so as long as you multiply the number by that special algorithm, it always equals 29. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But so as Michelle mentioned, and I've been in education for some time, my current role is I'm a coordinator of special populations at the Clarksville Montgomery County School System. When we have our conferences in our department meeting, everyone in that room knows which chair is mine. They're all uncomfortable. Nobody wants to be in the conference to begin with, but that's my seat. And if I'm not in my seat because someone who doesn't know better sits in my seat, I feel out of place. I don't feel comfortable. I start the meeting already with this sense of something's not right. It's like I'm itching. And so when we're thinking about transitions and we're thinking about change, a lot of times people think it's only the big things. But as you just experienced yourself, even just taking 4 steps to the right unexpectedly, when we weren't expecting it, when we'd prefer to be sitting down, we still feel uncomfortable. But the thing about it is that change isn't the problem. How we navigate change is the problem. There are 2 constants in this world, God and change. Those are the only 2 things that are constant. Whatever it is that you're doing today, something's going to change. We had weather, we had ice, we had snow, we had, out of school for all of those days. And for those of you who are used to your children being at school, you got the joy of having them all week long. Some schools went online, some schools did all kinds of different things, but we have change. Things come up, things change in our lives. And like I said, it's not the change that's the problem, because change is constant. It's how we navigate that change. There's 4 phases of transition. The first one is the ending. So we go through life, and like I said, I love to be comfortable. I don't like hot, I don't like cold, I like comfort. I love nature as long as I can observe it through the window of my climate-controlled living room, and I love to look out at nature. I don't want to sweat. I don't want to shiver. I want to be comfortable all the time. It's not realistic, but it's what I want. So when you think about transitions and you think about that comfort zone, that which you're comfortable with, that which you're familiar with, that's what you know, your routine. So the first phase of transition is that comes to an end. When that comes to an end, that triggers the fear, that anxiety, that uncomfortness, all of those different things, the panic, the resistance, Those are the things that get triggered when something that we're familiar with comes to an end. The second phase is the neutral zone, or we'll call it. I like to call it the quicksand, because you're just like in suspended animation. You're not moving forward, you're not moving backwards, you're not actually drowning. You might feel like you are. You might feel like you're suffocating. You feel like the ground beneath your feet has literally given way, like it's fallen apart, and that you were in a free fall, because you're not moving forward and going back isn't an option. So it's like neutral zone, or like I say, the quicksand. The next part is that new thing, it begins. There isn't a specific time for each of these phases. It depends on you, depends on the situation. Sometimes it's that quick. But the new beginning is that new whatever it is that's happening. The final stage is the harder part. It's where we integrate into that new thing, where we figure out who we are in this new place, in this new role, in this new situation, with these new people. So that integration piece is where we have to figure out, this is where I was comfortable. How do I find comfort? How do I choose joy? How do I figure out how to move forward, still being me in this new role, this new situation? If we think about life as a journey, and we think about everyone in this room has a journey, and we've got a story, and there's things that we do. We all have our lived experiences. We all have our life experiences. And we think about life as a journey. The thing about transitions, a lot of people think that when we think about change, like I said, we automatically think of the things that are big, not just the moving 4 steps to the right or 4 steps to the left. Change can be expected or unexpected. It's still change. Even if you know something's coming, it's still a change, it's still a shift. It still requires a new mindset. How many of you all have children? So at least for 9 months, you were expecting that, right? Maybe not for 10, but at least for 9 months, you were expecting that. Was it still a change? Was it still a transition? And I would say that it was even something that you wanted, but it was still a change. And adjusting to crying at 2 o'clock in the morning, crying for no reason, trying to figure out how to soothe the child when they're colicky, unless that was just me. All of those different things, those are all change. So change isn't necessarily something that we did not want or something that we weren't expecting. It can be expected or unexpected. We could be looking at something that is progressive, like a disease that gets worse and worse and worse. You know it's coming. We could even go back to Disney and the circle of life. I don't deal well with death at all, not even a little bit. Do I know it's coming? Yes. Do I know that it's inevitable? Yes. But I still don't deal well with it. My father had cancer, and of course that was getting progressively and progressively worse. But still, when he passed, it was still something that was traumatic for me, even though I knew it was coming. My mother passed away suddenly. Still, even though, she was 87, but still, you know that it's coming at some point. But that whole idea of whether you're expecting it, you see it's coming, or not, it's still a change. It's still a transition. Grief or gain, things that we gain. Winning the lottery. How many of you would love to win the lottery? How many of you that want to win it actually play it? Exactly. I would love to win the lottery, but I haven't played it since, I don't know. They say that it's, what's the saying? That it's more likely that you can get struck by lightning than to win the lottery. But if I'm enjoying weather from the inside climate-controlled environment of my house, I'm not going to be where lightning happens. And I guess if I don't play the lottery, I'm not likely to win it unless I, get blessed with finding a ticket along the road and I actually pick it up. But that would be a gain. If you were to suddenly win the lottery, do you think your life would change? Do you think it would all change for the positive? No. A lot of times people think that the more money you have, the happier you're going to be, the better everything's going to be. You've got all the great things. It's all about that perspective, right? So even if you've got more money, now you've got relatives you never knew that you had. And they all come out of the woodwork and tell you how much they love you and how much they miss you and how much they would love to be part of your life. So even a gain can be a challenge. How many of you have ever gotten a new job that you hoped for, that you prepared for, that you went to college for? Nobody got a new job? The school system's hiring. Apparently, you just have to have a pulse. So if you need a new job, I'll be out there, during lunch. If you need a job and you've got a bachelor's degree, we got you. That's all you got to do. So if you haven't had a new job or a new role in your life, let me know. But so even when you go to college for all of those years and you prepare, right? You would think that, well, change is difficult because we weren't prepared for it. Not necessarily the case. Like I said, when you're pregnant, that you got 9 months to prepare. It's still a change. When you go to college, you've got all of those years that you're going to school. It's still a change. Even in high school, for our teenagers, they know that if they do what they're supposed to do, in 4 years they're going to graduate. And they're going to graduate to adulthood, Adulting 101. We were just talking about that a little bit earlier, about the whole idea of what we should have for them as a required class to get them prepared instead of Algebra 2. It should be, Adulting 101, because who uses Algebra 2? Anybody? Exactly. So nobody uses Algebra 2. But transitions also could be opportunities. They could be challenges. Like I said, something that you wanted, initiated, or something that was inevitable, that you had no control over. Let's talk about a biblical example. Is everyone in here familiar with the story of Ruth? So Ruth was a Moabite young girl, who married an Israelite. Not long after they were married, he died. So there was two wives, Ruth and I forget her sister's name or the other one's name. She's not the main character. But both of their husbands died. Their mother-in-law's husband had died. So you've got these three women. The mother-in-law, Naomi, feels that she's been cursed, feels that God is not pleased with her. She feels that there's nothing that she can do in life, and she urges her daughter-in-laws to go back to their families so that way they can be cared for. One daughter-in-law, the one I can't remember her name, she does. Like I said, not the main character. She goes back to her mother-in-law, or back to her mother. Ruth says, no, I'm not leaving. I'm staying with you. So first of all, she's a Moabite who married an Israeli. And so that was a change. That was a transition. New culture, new religion, new expectations. She left her family, moved in with her mother-in-law, new change. Life was going on, and I think it was less than 10 years when her husband passed away. New change. So we've got grief. Now we've also got the fact that we've got a group of widows. How are we going to be cared for? Who's going to take care of us? It's not like today we are woman heroes roar. It wasn't in these times. So she's got another thing that she's got to be able to figure out. She's got the urging of her mother-in-law trying to release her from that expectation or that feeling of duty, like she feels like she's got to take care of her mother-in-law. So she could bow out and say, thank you, deuces, I'm going, right? Love you much. You said for me to go back, I'm going back. She chooses to stay. Not the last transition. They go back to Naomi's home. At first, they're starving. They're trying to figure out how they're going to survive. She's going out into the fields and doing what they call gleaning. So she's taking from the fields that which everyone else had left behind. So going in after the hours or after time to be able to get just enough to be able to live on. Her mother-in-law tells her about Boaz and tells her about how she should appeal to him to be her redeemer, someone to take care of the family, someone to take care of her. She does. They end up married. New change. Now she's respected because she's no longer a widow. She has someone to look after her. Her security is now in place. All of these different things happen to her. One change after the next change, after the next change, after the next change. Ruth went on to be an ancestor in the lineage of Jesus Christ. Do you think that's what she was thinking when her husband passed away? And she was figuring out how on earth are we going to survive? When she told her mother-in-law, where you go, I will go. Your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die. That level of commitment. And she's saying, yes, I know it's hard. Yes, I know this isn't my seat. Yes, I know this is another change, but I'm not leaving you. I'm going to stay by your side. I'm committed. I'm going to be loyal. And she was blessed for that. So Ruth, to me, is a perfect example of navigating transition with grace. When we think about grace, it's about allowing that grace to be our compass. It's not about Pollyanna positivity, where we say that everything's great and everything's fine and rainbows and sunshines and Skittles are falling from the air. That's not what we're saying. When we think about navigating transitions with grace, what we're saying is we're accepting the fact that things are shifting. We're accepting the fact that that ground just fell beneath my feet. It just grumbled, and I'm in a free fall. But the thing about it, though, kind of like the song that we just sang, I trust in God, my Savior, who will never fail. So it's about trusting God even in that quicksand, even in the middle, even when we can't see that anything is going to work out. Along with the ADHD and the OCD, also issues of anxiety. So I can tell you about, don't worry about it, trust. But God knows that we're not perfect. He knows that we're going to have anxiety. He knows that we're going to worry. He knows that we're going to doubt. He knows that we're going to question. He knows these things. And he's okay with that. There's no way on earth for us to be perfect. There was one man on this earth who was. Spoiler alert, he's not in the room. Well, not physically as one of the women today. He is in the room, but not physically as one of the women in the room today. So we're not expected to be perfect. We're not expected to get this right all the time. But what we need to understand is that when we feel like we're at our wits' end, when we feel like we have fallen all the way down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, when that ground gave way, we can still trust. That not because of faith that we don't go through these things, but understanding that we're not alone when we go through these things. Sometimes people have the misconception that because I'm a Christian and I'm a good person, that I will have no struggles. That if God loves me, my life is going to be all roses. Remember, even roses have thorns. And they hurt. We're going to have struggles. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and it's a matter of how often. We're going to. The thing about it is understanding where we place our trust and understanding that we trust in God, that he's going to be with us through it, and he's going to see us through it. The last thing there on that slide that I wanted to make sure that we talked about was staying open to growth. Do you think you can grow when you're comfortable? No. Growth means change. Literally. Look it up. You've got Google in your hand. Growth means change. So if we're always looking to grow and to improve, because I would hope that that's what we're looking to do, then we almost have to embrace change. That feels a little itchy. But we almost have to embrace change. Because if we aren't looking to change, that means that we're looking to stay the same, which is stagnation, which is not growth. And once you start moving forward, where are you going? So we've got to stay open to that growth and understanding that even though it's uncomfortable, that it's something that's necessary and that there's usually a blessing in the lesson. Yeah, it's a lesson. Usually one that we didn't bargain for, but there's usually a blessing in the lesson. Or our lesson can become a blessing for someone else. Someone once told me that you can't have a testimony unless you're tested. That you can't have a message unless you go through the mess. So when we think that we're supposed to go through life with roses and unicorns and Skittles and Starburst, where was that ever modeled? Who in the Bible, out of all the disciples, out of all the stories we read in the Bible, can we name one who didn't go through any kind of struggle, any kind of challenge? I can't think of one. You might be able to, but I can't think of one. So like I said, that middle part, I like to think of that as the quicksand. On August 8th, 2021, the earth shattered beneath my feet. My mother passed away from a heart attack on August 8th, 2021. I am the youngest of 4 girls, and for those of you who study psychology, yes, everything about the youngest child is true. Everything about the youngest child is true. Just saying. I am the youngest of 4 girls. However, I was the executor. I had to handle everything for everybody else. And so as the executor, I felt as though I didn't even have a chance for a long time to even go through the grief process, because I had to step in and shoulder it all and be strong for my older sisters. I had to take care of everything for them. My mother was my rock. To me, my mother was the epitome of a strong woman. She taught me so much about determination, about being strong, about setting goals, about not allowing someone else to tell you what you could and could not do, unless it was her. She could tell me, and did, often, even when I'm grown. But no one else, no one but Mama, could tell you what to do. No one else was going to define you. That's what she taught me. I leaned on my mother. And the thing about it is, I didn't have the relationship, looking back now, that I wish I had. It was more of an unspoken reverence, more of an unspoken respect. And that regret, that stings. That stings. So, August 8th, 2021, Mom passes. Like I said, I'm navigating this for my sisters. Are any of you Disney fans? Really? Unofficial homework. Tonight, you need to go look up the movie Encanto. Yes, Encanto, Encanto. There's a character in the book, or in the movie. Her name is Luisa. Luisa is the strong one. I resonate with that character. I resonate with cartoons because life is hard. So when y'all are stressed, watch cartoons. But Encanto, when you think about that whole idea of being strong, let's use a reference since you guys aren't Disney people. In high school, they made you study mythology. You all remember those wonderful times? Do you remember Hercules? All right. So Hercules, the strong one, or even a biblical example, Samson, the strong one. I'm not saying that I was the strong one. What I'm saying is I was expected to be the strong one. I was expected, both by my late mother, as well as my sisters, to handle it. To handle it. At this same time, so I took some time off for work and then came back to work. At the same time, I told you all that I'm the coordinator of special populations for the school system. And you're probably wondering, what does that role do? Basically, I am a firefighter equipped with a straw and a spit wad that I'm supposed to put out forest fires with the oncoming wind. That's my job. So my phone only rings when someone's upset. When people are ready to sue the district. Hey, Carolyn, When the teachers are upset with their principals, hey, Carolyn. When the principals are fed up with the teachers and or the parents and or Scooby-Doo, hey, Carolyn. So my phone only rings when there's a problem. And my job is to be the firefighter and handle it. As women, as our singer mentioned this morning, or our guitar player mentioned this morning, you all are the backbone, you all are the spine. You know exactly what I'm talking about. We don't have the privilege, the opportunity, the luxury of just saying, I can't handle this. We take on more and more and more and more until we break. There was one morning I was sitting in the car in front of the building, literally gripping the steering wheel, trying to muster up the strength to go inside. Literally, just holding onto that steering wheel, gripping it for dear life, trying to figure out how the Smurf Berry Crunch do I get through this day? How do I do it again? And let me explain something. Leadership is not at all about a title. Leadership is just simply a quality of who you are. I mentioned my mother as my rock. My father was a retired major who often forgot he was retired. Not being able to do something wasn't in my DNA. That's not how I was brought up. I still recall the first and only time I ever made a C in my life. 8th grade, music. I can explain. We had a substitute. Our other teacher quit because our group of kids were, let's just say, challenging. Although by today's standards, they were angels. But anyway, so they were challenging, and so our teacher quit, and we had a new substitute come in. And so we went from singing, not that I do that on key, but we went from singing to reading the music book and answering the questions in the back. And I'm sure you could imagine the joy. I got to see. But so in my life, though, I was raised as a person. My maiden name is Foster. And I still remember the conversation when I brought home that report card to my father. Foster girls don't make C's. And there was a silent pause. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. After a little pause, Daddy says, but Carolyn, if you can look me in my eye and tell me that you honestly did the best that you could, I'll accept it. Before I could answer, though, he said, but I know this wasn't your best. And he was right. Looking back, I know that my father wasn't trying to degrade me. In his way, he was trying to inspire and uplift me. What I now understand, I didn't then. Then I was thinking, if can't do it perfect, then don't do it at all. That it's expected to be perfect. And I still struggle with perfectionism today because of that. Well, I say because of that. That's probably a part of it. I shouldn't say this because of that. But anyway, so the whole idea in my mind was that if you can't do it perfect, don't do it at all. Again, I'm going to take on more. I'm going to shoulder more. I've got to be more. I've got to be everything that I've got to be. What he meant, like I said, that I understand now that I'm 29 again, I understand now that what Dad meant was you owe it to yourself to always do the best that you can. I don't know why he didn't say that. I guess because he doesn't speak woman. He doesn't speak female. Because what he said, like I said, still resonates in my head. After all these years, I still remember that conversation. But back to my mom and back to the situation in that parking lot. So I'm sitting there in that parking lot trying to think about how on earth I'm going to go in that building and show up for everybody else. So like I said, as a leader, nothing about title. It's all about who you are and the fact that you lead wherever you are. And granted, on paper, it looked good. I was still checking every single box. I was showing up. I was doing the things. I had my spitball down, and I was putting out all the fires. But even though the appearance on the outside was that I was navigating all of those transitions with grace, the truth was so much different. In truth, on the inside, every fiber of my being was frayed. Every thread unraveling. Every ounce of stability evaporating. Quicksand. Like you couldn't breathe. Hollywood's got it wrong, just so y'all know. A little bit of science. I'm a little bit of a nerd, too. So in Hollywood, they make you believe that when you fall into quicksand, that you quickly get sucked under and you die. Science, not Hollywood, science says that's not the case. So yes, there is real quicksand. It does exist. It is a thing. But when you fall into that quicksand, because of the density the difference between your body and that of the sand, you submerge to a certain point, and then you basically are just stuck. How many of you ever try to outrun a storm? Nobody? Y'all are some interesting folks. I need to understand y'all's playbook. No changes, no storms, everything's great. I'm moving to Franklin. I'm moving to Franklin. And when I say storms, you probably thought literal. Let me rephrase that. How many of you in life have seen metaphorical storms coming at you, and you think you can run from it? You think you are Wilma Rudolph. You think that you can put on your shoes, strap up, and just run and outrun whatever it is that's coming at you. How'd that work for you? So I was trying to run from all my situations. I was running and running and running, and guess what? Apparently there's quicksand in Clarksville because I fell in it. I was stuck in the quicksand for some time, and I was just stuck. I couldn't move forward, couldn't move backwards, couldn't climb out on my own. I was just stuck. Do you know that silence is deafening? When you're sitting in that quicksand and you're forced to sit with yourself, you're forced to sit in that silence. You go into a period of reflection, into a season in your life where you start examining the things that matter, the things that don't, the things that you want, the things you've accomplished, the things that you wish you could have done over, the things that you know wasn't necessarily the best choice. So you spend that time in reflection, and you spend that time thinking, and those loud noises in your head, they just get louder and louder. My thought pattern, or the way that I think, like I said, ADHD, OCD, all the things. You all seen a spider web? Don't tell me no one in the room has ever seen a spider web. We need to go on a field trip. All right. So when you think about a spider web, right, and you think about all the intricacies of a spider web and all the different ways that it goes, I've got a spider in my head. That's how I think. I don't drink, but my spider does. So imagine a spider web woven by a drunk spider. That's my head. And so sitting in that quicksand, unable to move, unable to climb out, just sitting there, thinking, hearing, replaying, regretting, hoping, then thinking that there's no such thing as hope. Oh. Isn't it funny how we'll accept the voice in our head saying stuff about us that we would never accept from somebody else? If somebody else said the things about you that you say to yourself, we'd be like taking our earrings off, putting on the Vaseline, we're ready to go, right? You're talking about, where's my girls, where's my posse? We're going to, we don't put up with that. But we talk to ourselves in a way. At least, maybe it's just me. But that negative self-talk, that I can't, that I shoulda, coulda, woulda, but you're not good enough, but you're not ready, but you should be over that by now. But that's what you asked for, so careful, deal with it because that's what you asked for. You put yourself in that situation. You made these choices. All of those different things going on in your head. If you can't do it right, if you can't be perfect, then don't do it. That procrastination, that resistance, all of those things just playing in your mind. And you're thinking, oh my word. And like I said, on the outside, you're checking every box. I'm showing up. I look put together. I'm getting the job done. I'm doing what I need to do. But it's just autopilot. You're just going through the steps. You're going through the motions. Is that living? Is that living? Is it the life you want? The song that he wanted to sing is absolutely one of my favorites. Waymaker. Waymaker. And there's two different versions that most people refer to. One by Sinach, and I'm probably pronouncing the name wrong. And then there's one by Leland. The one by Leland has this section in it that Sinach doesn't usually have, at least I haven't heard it in there. And it goes, even when I don't see him, he's working. Even when I don't feel it, he's working. He never stops. He never stops working. He never stops. He never stops working, right? So even when I don't feel it. So when you're in that quicksand and you feel like you're stuck, when you're in that quicksand and you can't figure out where you're going next because you can't see it, you don't feel it. You're thinking, God, where? Why? What? He's working. He's working. So even in that time, when you're in that quicksand and you're thinking that I can't move forward, you're thinking, I wish Hollywood was true and I'd just go ahead and sink already. At least then it's not the suspended, what is it, suspended animation or whatever. But the whole idea of I'm just stuck. I can't move forward, can't move backwards. The old cartoons where they had the freeze ray, you just froze. Like I said, I'm a cartoon person. But the Waymaker. So understanding that no, Louisa can't do it, Hercules can't do it, Samson alone can't do it, but he can. I think one of the troubles, like I mentioned, change is not the problem. It's how we navigate those transitions that's the problem. And we think, but Lord, it's been so long. Didn't the Israelites wait for over 40 years before they went to the land of milk and honey? How many years, generations, were they in captivity? And so in our minds, when we think about the whole idea of it's been so long, it's because we're thinking about our timing. We're thinking about in our context. We're thinking about us. So we're thinking that we're at the center of that whole thing. We're thinking that we actually had some control over that. Isn't that funny? We thought it was us. We thought that we can control that. It's interesting. I was listening to a book, not my own, but I was listening to a book the other day. And if you haven't read it, I'm going to give a shameless plug. It's called Are You Praying for the Wrong Thing? It's by Travis Green. And in chapter 3, I think it was, he was talking about how in Psalms 37, people often take that verse, as well as many others, out of context. So in Psalm 37, it's a verse that talks about if you pray that he will give you the desires of your heart. Again, we thought it was about us. So people think that because we're Christians and we're good people, that if we pray and we say pretty please, he's going to give us whatever we want. Again, the problem is our context there. We're thinking it's about us. Read it slowly. Let it marinate. I believe that what it says is that he will give you the desires of your heart, meaning he's going to give you what to want. He's going to give you what to desire. And if your desires match his desires, then of course you're going to get what you want. But when we get it twisted and we think it's all about what we want on our timing, and Lord, why am I still in this quicksand? Why am I going through all these transitions? Ruth ended up in the lineage of Jesus Christ. And you saw what all she went through. Job ended up in the belly of a big fish because he tried to outrun his calling. He tried to outrun that storm. And then he was on the boat in the literal storm. And what did they do? They threw him overboard. So did he outrun it? No. He thought he could. He thought that God had told him to do something, and he didn't want to go there. He didn't want to talk to those people. He didn't want to minister to those people. So he got himself on a boat, and he tried to go the opposite direction. God allowed him to get on that boat. I believe when the storm started, he was asleep. God allowed him to get comfortable on that boat. And to think that he was in control. To think that he could outrun that mission, that storm. But he couldn't. So navigating change and navigating transitions with grace, like I said, we've got to think about the whole idea of trusting God, because us thinking that we're in control, it's just not the case. And us thinking that we can avoid it, again, wrong again. Us thinking that because we're good, we won't have any struggles, not the case. So we've got to accept the fact that change is inevitable. Big change, little change, doesn't matter. Change that we wanted, change that we didn't, doesn't matter. Change that's progressively getting worse, or change that's sudden. It's still change. And we've got to think about the fact of how do we navigate that. And I've got the solution for you. It's not about you. It's not about you. So when we think about, in my life, I like to go by 7 core values. They happen to spell out Phoenix. Like I said, OCD tendencies. Purple is one of them. The Phoenix is another one. Guilty as charged. So when we think about the Phoenix, the first one is purpose. So being purpose-driven. Understanding that even in that quicksand, even when we don't see it, God still has a plan. The good book says that God says, I know my plans for you. Plans to prosper and not to harm. That doesn't mean, though, again, people think, that means that I'm never supposed to have harm. That's not what it says. Marinate on that one, too. But the whole idea, though, is that God still has a plan. And in this lesson, in this challenge, in this transition, in this change that you're going through, like I said, it may be a blessing for you. It may be a blessing for somebody else. But the other thing is that, like I said, we think that it's about us. We think that we're in charge of these things. We need to take it down a notch and understand we are all tools. We are meant to worship and to serve. Period. We are meant to worship and to serve. That doesn't mean we all do it in the exact same way. That doesn't mean that we all are meant to serve the same people or to serve in the same way. But we are meant to worship God, and we are meant to serve. The 2 main things that we were told to do is love God with all of our mind, all of our soul, and all of our heart, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. Those 2 are the greatest commandments, right? Anybody disagree? Love it. This is the one time I'm glad nobody raised their hand. All right, so purpose. So even though we're going through mess, even though we're being tested, Even though we're sitting in that quicksand, God has a plan. And because of that, He is our hope. He is our hope. So we need to understand that as the song says, Waymaker, even when we don't see it, He's working. Even when we don't feel it, He's working. He has a plan. And we can take hope, have hope in the fact that He is there. Like I said, not because we're not going to do it, go through it, live it, but because we're not doing it alone. That He is with us. And then we have openness. Again, like I mentioned before, we have to be open to growth. We have to be open to the fact that we're still learning. One of the things we say in education all the time is, I'm a lifelong learner. I want to say, who isn't? Because I think most of us are learning something, great or small, every day. And you'll see on my last slide, it says that too. I'm a lifelong learner. But we are, right? Which means we've already said that we embrace change. So like I said, change isn't the problem. It's how we choose to navigate it. And the thing about it is we don't want to navigate it alone. When I moved to Clarksville, I learned that you could be on the same street, never turn, and it changes names 4 times. Why? Why? So there's a road in Clarksville that is called 101st, Purple Heart Highway. At one point, it's Riverside. At one point, it is, no, not Riverside. Yeah, I think Riverside. Anyway, it's got like 4 different names on the same road. I have to rely on GPS to be able to navigate Clarksville. And I've lived there now for 11 years. But I still use my GPS. Clarksville is a small town. Well, it's a big town that thinks it's small, doesn't have the right infrastructure. But the thing about it, though, is that all of those different things, I don't rely on my own ability to navigate. And so when we're going through transitions, we need to understand that we shouldn't be relying on ourselves to navigate it. If you end up sick, do you take care of, you need an antibiotic, you need insulin, you need something, do you take care of that on your own? If you need, any car mechanics in the room? So when your car breaks down, you take it to someone who can do it, right? When you had all that snow and ice on the roof, and if it had caved in your roof, hopefully that didn't happen to anybody, are you going to fix the roof on your own? Or are you going to call somebody? We try to navigate transitions alone. That's why we struggle. We need to understand that we're not in it by ourselves. We were never meant to walk this life alone. And so we have someone that helps us. We've been sitting for a while. Will you indulge me and stand up for just a second? Like I mentioned, I was sitting there holding on to that steering wheel. Can you clench your fist for me? So when you think of the fact that we're holding on to things in life, right? Think about for a second, figuratively, not literally, what might you be holding on to that you need to release? If your hands are clenched, can you receive anything? How can God gift you? How can He bless you? How can He direct you if you're clenching your hands, holding on to the very thing that's supposed to be ending, the very thing that you're supposed to be transitioning from? If we're holding too tightly to that or to anything other than God, how can He fill you? So we've got to make sure that we take the posture of we go from our release and we go to our openness to be able to receive. There's a song that talks about, teach me to receive every blessing. And you would think, why does someone need to teach me to get something? It's because we get in our own way. We get in our own way, and we think we know better, or because like the Israelites, even though this wasn't comfortable, I know it. So even if it's bad, there's comfort in the fact that it's familiar. And so we hold on to that which we need to let go. We hold on and we don't release. And if we don't release, how do we integrate into the new thing that we were meant for? We might be blocking our own blessings. We might be blocking our own opportunities. We might be blocking what he needs for you to go through to help somebody else because we refuse to release. We refuse to release. So we've got to be open to the lesson, not just the blessing. So I told you how August 8th, 2021, my world changed. Absolutely, the floor beneath my feet crumbled. And although I knew it, I could finally name it, I still felt unseen. Let's take a break. Did that feel like a quick break? Did everybody get a chance, though, to stand up and stretch a little bit? See, if I was in class with the kids, I say get the wiggles out. But I'm not going to treat you like the elementary kids. But if you need to get the wiggles out, go ahead and get the wiggles out. So we talked about navigating change, navigating transitions with grace. The fact that they weren't going to go away. And I told you about the biblical example that we have of Ruth and how everything that she went through, but there was a blessing at the end. Told you a little bit about my story, a little bit. We're going to pick up with that in a second. But even though I had finally realized I was in the quicksand, even though I realized that I needed to do something, right? Realized that things just weren't good. Have you ever been in a situation where you don't know what you need? You know that you need something. You know that you don't like where you're at, but you don't know what you need. It's kind of like in my house for over 30 years. We had the same debate and discussion every night. What's for dinner? I don't know. Well, what do you want? I don't care. And then you start naming things. Oh, well, I don't want that. So you do care. Yeah, but I don't know what I want. And so that's, of course, a very trivial example, but it's a really real example. Usually at work, I'm ready for lunch by about 9 o'clock in the morning. I go across the hall to my colleagues, and I say, what are we doing for lunch? They're like, Carolyn, it's 9. I said, I need something to look forward to. What are we doing for lunch? So it's that whole idea that we know we need something, right? So not only did I need to be seen, I needed to see me. Have you ever been in a season in your life, again, like I said, going through life on autopilot, and you're checking all the boxes, showing up, doing all the things, and you feel unseen? You feel like nobody notices. Nobody sees me. But down deep, how do you think someone else can see you if you don't see you? You've lost sight of who you are. You're questioning who you're supposed to be. Or you don't know how to navigate the road to get to where you think you're supposed to be. So the question is, do I see me? I told you that my mother, she was my rock. Like I said, in my mind, the epitome of a strong woman. Do you know that in all of my, we're going to say 29 years, I don't think I ever saw my mother cry? Not once. And in my mind, at the time, I thought that was strength. I thought that was a good thing. I thought that's how we're supposed to do it. Louisa! I just hold it in, That whole idea that if we're crying, if we're showing that remorse, if we're showing that emotion, then it's like admitting I'm not enough. It's like I'm admitting I can't do it. Or I'm admitting, even worse, that I failed. That I wasn't perfect. I failed. So we hold it all in. And we just keep moving, and we keep doing, and we keep going. Autopilot. Which is great if you're on a long flight from here to Timbuktu, and you're worried about the pilot's fatigue. But I think that's the only situation where autopilot's a good thing. Even in our cruise control, unless you're trusting one of those cars that drives themselves, and I'm not there yet. 2 reasons. One, because I can't afford it, but also because handing that control over, I have control issues on top, just saying. But that whole idea, though, of, how do we do this? How do we navigate those transitions with change? How do we keep being strong, keep showing up? And then when we figured out that we've got to release, and we think about that surrender, we think that when we surrender, it's automatic clarity. Everything's going to be clear. That everything's going to be just crystal clear because we surrendered. And we think, like I said, that faith removes the struggle. If I'm good enough, if I pray hard enough, if I'm nice to these people, if I put a little extra in the collection plate, if I give the person standing on the street corner part of my lunch today, then I've done all the good works and I've earned a struggle-free life. So we believe that if I believe in God as my Savior and I'm a good person, it's going to remove the struggle. I surrender, I'm going to have clarity, and it's going to remove the struggle. I'm not going to say what happens when we assume. I will say, though, the realization is that just like change isn't the problem, what we truly need isn't necessarily the answer. We think we do. We want the answer. Like I said, I was a teacher. I don't know how many times trying to teach something in class, usually math, or, deeper understanding and reading comprehension, the kids come up to you. They don't want you to tell them how to do it. They just want the answer. When you go to the doctor and they're telling you what's wrong and all these other, just fix it. You want the solution. You take your car to the dealership and they're fixing it, or they're pretending that they're fixing it, and you want them to just give you the answer. You don't want them to explain all that gobbledygook about what's wrong with it. Or when you buy something new and you've got that 14-page manual written in a way that nobody can understand it, not even the spider in my head, you just want the answer, right? You buy a puzzle. You want to know what it's supposed to look like. How many of you buy a puzzle that you don't see the picture in advance, and you just put together a blank puzzle that just has all the pieces? No. We want the answers. That might not be what we need. Many times we talk about the fact that, God, just show me your plan. Just tell me your plan. I don't know how many times I've prayed that. But the question is, if I knew, could I handle it? If I knew, could I handle it? And not only that, if you knew, would you mess it up? Could you steward something that massive, something that great, something that is far greater than us? So we always shouldn't say always is an absolute. We often want the answer. We want the quick way, the easy way. We want you to just fix it. And many times we think that answer is going to be some grand gesture, some big thing, right? Not always the case. Sometimes what's more important than the solution is the presence. Or as a math teacher, I will say you what's more important instead of the answer is understanding the process, understanding the problem solving, understanding the how 2 + 2 = 4, not just the fact that it does. So when we're in those quicksand situations and we're feeling unseen, we're feeling overlooked, or maybe we're just feeling unsettled because we had to step 4 steps to the left, sit in a different chair, or we're left standing in front of everybody else feeling exposed, we think that we need a solution. God often, instead of sending you the answer, he sends you his presence. And as much as I would love to experience that presence in a burning bush so that there is no doubt, there's no trying to figure it out, there's no questioning, is that my voice, is that your voice, what's going on? I would love to have a burning bush moment. But oftentimes, he sends you a person. He sends you an opportunity. Or he sends you an intentional, honest conversation. Have you ever had a situation where you run into something you're questioning, you're wondering about, and you run into somebody who says something, you're thinking, but then you dismiss it. You keep on in autopilot, on your way. You run into a totally different person that doesn't even know that person, so you know they couldn't have compared notes. And they, not necessarily in the exact same words, but they basically tell you the same thing. Coincidence. So you keep on living life on autopilot, still questioning, still praying for the answer, praying for the solution. How many of you guys have ever watched Hallmark? Thank you. I love the fact that I saw hands this time. There was this one Hallmark movie, and I can't remember the name of it because names is something I'm working on. I used to say I'm bad at it. I'm trying to be positive. It's something I'm still working on. But there was this one movie where a lady is sitting, the story is about a lady's talking to, at least I think it was Hallmark. Sometimes I mix things up, the spider. But anyway, there's a story, we'll say it's a story, that a lady's talking about, God, there was a horrible storm. I prayed for you to come and save me. I was in the park. The blizzard was so bad. I was freezing. I was cold. It kept snowing. It kept snowing. I kept the faith. I kept praying. I was praying so bad, so hard that I was crying. Why didn't you save me? And when you go back and you look at the story, the woman had been sitting in that park praying earnestly. Someone had came by and said, ma'am, do you need something? Can I help you? Do you need a ride? No, I'm waiting for my God. The man left. The woman continued to sit there on that bench and pray earnestly, fervently. God, save me. God, save me. Someone else came by. Ma'am, it's awful cold out here. That storm is getting worse, and it's going to get even worse. How about if I give you a ride, if I take you someplace out of the park? How about if I get you to safety? No, I'm fine. My God's coming. He's going to save me. So the person shook their head, and they left. She continued to sit on that bench, and for a third time, she cried out to God, God, where are you? Why are you not saving me? I've been such a good person. I've done what I'm supposed to do. I love my neighbor as myself. I love you with all my soul, all my heart, and all my mind. But God, where are you? Just then, the first person came back. He said, lady, this storm is dangerous. I really need to get you out of here. Again, she turned him away. She stayed there in that park. And she died. So she died, and she gets to heaven. And so she says, why didn't you save me? He said, I sent you 3 people. You kept sending them away. Sometimes we're praying for that big burning bush moment, and we don't understand God answered your prayer 3 times. Not once, not just twice, 3 times. He answered your prayer. And we chose not to receive. I wonder what we were gripping. Wonder what we were thinking. We were expecting that grand moment. And what we didn't understand is the power of something much smaller. We didn't understand that it doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Many times we think that change, we think that inspiration has to come in big, we are the world moments. Please tell me you all remember we are the world. Thank you. Just making sure. Otherwise, it was going to be more homework. So big we are the world moments. We think that that's what we need in order to make a difference. We think that there's got to be the march on Washington in order to affect something. We think that we need to have the revival at church in order to save souls. And in a revival, we get fired up, right? We get fired up, we feel the Spirit, we feel all the things. Does that feeling last at the same level? Or does it sometimes taper? When you first fall in love with that guy, you know, the one that looked really, really good 20 years ago, and all the things were great, and you could only see the positive things in them, they did nothing wrong. Does that same level of chemistry stay the same? It wanes. So we think that it has to be the big, grand gestures. We don't think about the power of one good hello, the power of a small connection. And connection can change our direction. Think back for a moment. Was there ever someone in your life that a small, maybe chance meeting, someone who gave you an opportunity, someone who saw you, someone who noticed you, someone who took a moment to make an intentional connection with you that changed your life, that made an impact? Is there anyone in the room who could say that's never happened for you? Again, I'm glad. See, I learned how to ask the questions the right way. That way I don't have to wait for you to do this. I twisted it. Told you I was an educator. All right, so that connection. And that connection is what I call a good hello. So when we think about a good hello, like I said, a good hello can be any good opportunity. It could be a chance meeting. It could be a new opportunity, a good conversation with somebody else, maybe even an honest conversation with yourself in the quicksand. The Bible gives us a perfect example. I know, without even asking you to raise your hands, that you're all familiar with the story of the woman at the well. Think about that for a second. Let's think about the context. Jesus is sitting at the well by himself. Jesus is Jewish. In the heat of the day, when no one else is coming to the well to draw water, a woman, a Samaritan woman, comes by the well. What do you think most Jewish men would have done when that woman came to the well? Anybody? Say it out loud. She motioned. What would we do? What do we think most Jewish men would have done? I can't hear you. Move away! Thank you. Thank you in the back. Would have moved away, right? Would not have engaged. Samaritans and Jewish people were not necessarily friends. They were kind of like Androids and iPhones. They didn't play well in the sandbox. Just so you know, I'm an Android person. I think the only good Apple is one I can dip in caramel. And apparently that voids the warranty. So Apple, yeah, just saying. But so Jesus is a Jewish man, there by himself, and a woman by herself, who happens to be Samaritan, comes to the well. Jesus chose intentionally to break that social barrier. He chose to speak to her. And he didn't just say, hello. No, he really spoke with her. When we say an honest conversation, I believe that the way that the story goes, he told me all I had done. Do any of you have friends in your life that will tell you all about yourself? Because they love you. So they will tell you everything about you, right? The difference here, though, is that he had a reason for telling her all of her dirt about her. And the other thing, though, that friend that always says, not to judge, that's almost like when we start a sentence with, no offense, but. Or, if you want me to be honest, are you saying that normally you're not? So when we start our sentences that way, so that friend that is honest with you usually has an ulterior motive, perhaps, or they're not doing it necessarily for your good. Sometimes your friend is telling you about things that you need to know. And sometimes they are telling you for your good. Absolutely. Oftentimes, that's not the case. So Jesus intentionally chose to cross that social barrier, to take 4 steps to the left, even if he was standing up in the aisle. But he chose to break that social barrier and to speak to the woman. He didn't judge her. He told her about all 5 of those husbands that she'd had, and the one that she had now was not hers. But he didn't say it to shame her, to judge her. But he saw her. He noticed her. He spoke to her, not just for her to hear, but for her soul to hear. He spoke to her. Because of that, because he took an intentional moment to make that connection, it changed her life. He didn't set the bush on fire then. He didn't part the Red Sea or cause the water in the well to come springing up. He could have. He didn't transfigure in front of her. Could have. It was just one small, simple, intentional connection. And because of that, not only was her life changed, but she became the first female evangelist. She went running back to town and told anybody who would listen. Now, this is the woman that the rest of the neighborhood shunned. This is the woman who was intentionally coming to the well when no one else was going to be there because she was avoiding interacting with them. She was avoiding them. Wonder why she didn't feel like avoiding them now. Why didn't she just go home, her house or whoever's house that was, and keep the experience to herself? When we encounter God, it's hard to keep him to ourselves. Think back when you were a child and you had something that you'd been wanting for Christmas and you finally got it. Mine was a 3-story Barbie doll house, the townhouse, that in today's day and age, is not at all impressive. But back then it was. So, it had the cardboard back, the 3 floors. The only decoration was the cardboard in the back. And the little yellow elevator that pulled up with the string. I see nods. Thank you. Exactly. So that was something I had been wanting. And I got it. I told you I'm the youngest child. A little bit spoiled. Just a little bit. And I don't say that because I'm bragging about it. I'm saying because I know who I am. So a little bit spoiled, which is why my grandchildren are a little bit spoiled. Just a little bit. But anyway, so I got that Barbie doll townhouse that I've been wanting. Do you think I kept it to myself? No. I told everybody, all my friends, especially the ones that didn't have one. I had to tell them what I got and how cool it was and how much my parents loved me. You didn't get what you wanted? Guess you hadn't been good enough. Guess you didn't ask nice enough. Maybe you didn't ask hard enough. What's that sound like? So when we get something that we really, really want, or even something that we really, really need, we tell people. So the woman at the well, we never know her name, but the woman at the well goes back to the town who treated her as, dirt. And she told them about the encounter she had just had. And the amazing thing, not only did she tell them, they didn't dismiss her. When you think about it, someone who isn't in your circle, we'll put it nicely, someone who isn't in your circle, if they come running to you to tell you about something, are you going to drop everything and follow them? I mean, this isn't Lassie barking at you to tell you that somebody's in trouble and you need to come save them, right? This is someone who you'd rather not do life with, and we'll put it that way. But she comes and she tells the people in her neighborhood, and she says, this man that I met, he told me about living water, that I would thirst no more. You've got to come. And they did. So, Jesus, a Jewish man, encountered this woman, a Samaritan, who was absolutely not living the way that society or the Lord would say that she should. He still saw her. He still spoke to her. He didn't judge her. He didn't shame her. He intentionally made a connection. And that one small act, woman, will you give me a drink? Now, granted, in today's day and age, we don't want to be called woman, but in that day and age, I guess, it was acceptable and a little bit different. So let's put it this way. Queen, will you please give me a drink of water? And he did. She did. After the conversation. But simply asking for a drink of water. Was that something hard? Now, does that mean that I'm expecting you to drive up the street corner in Nashville and on the street corner stop and ask somebody for a drink of water? No. But what I am saying is to understand that there's a power in a small connection. It doesn't have to be a burning bush. It could be. I'd love for it to be, but it doesn't have to be. And that one good hello that Jesus gave to the woman at the well, changed her life. And like throwing a rock in a puddle, the ripples, the impact, it changed countless lives, right? So Jesus stopped. He spoke. And he stayed. It wasn't just a hey and kept it moving, right? It was an intentional connection. An intentional connection. When we're seen, it restores our dignity. So like I said earlier, could I see myself? Have you ever had a situation like the one that I told you with my father, when he saw something in me that, of course, I didn't see in myself? And because he saw something in me, it changed the way that I thought. Yes, I know I took it to the extreme. My name is Carolyn. But because he saw something in me, it changed what I thought about me. Because my mother taught me that you will succeed, it wasn't an option, kind of like you will go to college. It wasn't an option. Times were different then, I understand, not the same today. But it wasn't an option. And because that belief, because of that, they saw me even before I saw me, it changed me. It told me I have worth. As a teacher, there was many times you'd have kids in your class, in my classroom. Kids that didn't believe that they were worthy. Kids that didn't believe that they mattered. Kids that didn't believe that they could learn. Those kids are still there. Different day, same situations. Sometimes what it takes is for someone to notice, for someone to believe, for someone to say, I see you. Stand up for me, please. Many of you are sitting next to someone that you know, someone that you came here with. I want to give you a small challenge. I want you to find two people in the room that you don't already know. Make an intentional connection. Don't forget, you need to meet too. If you're still talking to your first person, go ahead and take this opportunity to bring that conversation to a close. And go ahead and find your way to your second person. Remember to make sure that that second person is also someone that you didn't already know when you came. Make sure that when you leave that person that you take time to thank them for their time and for their connection. So we're going to bring it back together in about 10 seconds. So go ahead and start wrapping up your conversations. We'll come back in 9. We'll come back in 8. We'll come back in 7. We'll come back in 6. And we're moving to 5 and 4. We're closing up in 3, in 2. Thank you. What brave soul wants to tell me something that you learned about somebody new? I can't hear you. A little bit louder. I've got grandma ears. Awesome, awesome. Miss Jennifer at lunch for being my first volunteer. Come see me at my table. I've got a book for you. See, y'all didn't know there was treats. But yeah, maybe next. No. But thank you, Miss Jennifer. Yes. So how does it feel, not just for someone to say hi and keep it moving? Did you all hear the laughter in the room? Did you all feel the emotion in the room? When we intentionally took time, was that something hard? Was it hard just to speak to one person? We're in a safe space, right? Like I said, I wouldn't just walk up to somebody on the street corner. You know, yeah, not in today's day and age, but a small connection. So I told you about my story a little bit, and I told you about the fact that I was sitting there on autopilot, trying to figure out how to keep doing what I was doing, how to keep just moving through the motions, but how to just keep going. Like I said, my mother, to me, was one of the strongest women I've ever known, that I've ever seen. However, I've come to learn staying quiet isn't strength. I thought it was. So that's what I did. We all know that we can only give to our children from the cup that we drink from, right? We can't give them water we don't have. We can only give them the same water that we know. And so I pray for my children because I know what they've had. But growing up, I thought that strength meant you hold it in, that you show up for everybody else, that they come first. Because in my mother's life, everyone else came first. And I thought that's what it meant to be a good mother, was that you had to put everyone else first. I felt like no matter what I was going through, I had to do like the singer, beautiful eyes. I'm trying to think of it. Smokey Robinson. Thank you. Moment there. The tears of a clown. People say I'm the life of the party. Although outside I might be laughing and smiling, but deep inside I'm crying. The tears of a clown. Boy, was I a clown. I thought that I was being the strong one. Like I said, on the outside, I was checking every box. Y'all can see my resume. On paper, it looks good. It looks good. And not because I'm bragging, but because it's paper. Paper doesn't mean anything. It makes a really good airplane. So on the outside, everything was good. But like I said, on the inside, I was falling apart. Literally falling apart. Every single day, it was a chore. It was a struggle to get up and go. Like I said, sitting there, holding onto that steering wheel, trying to figure out how the Smurf Berry Crunch, you can borrow that one, by the way, how the Smurf Berry Crunch I was going to go into that building yet again to put out fires that they could have avoided if they'd listened to me on the front end, because that's usually the case. If they had done what they were supposed to do, y'all have kids, so if your kids had done what they were supposed to do on the front end, what you told them to do, usually they would not have the problems that they then later want you to bail them out of. Same thing. So thinking about the idea, strong women don't cry. Strong women don't talk about the fact that they're falling apart. But even strength, at some point, I told you how that ground gave way. Eventually, the free fall stops. Eventually, you can only fall so far until you hit the bottom. Any of you ever been to the Grand Canyon? Oh, I see hands. I haven't. So I've never been to the Grand Canyon because I felt like my life was the Grand Canyon. It's kind of like the reason why I stopped watching all kinds of crazy TV and why I watch Hallmark and cartoons. I got enough reality. I don't believe that cartoons and Hallmark are reality. I'm not that naive. But why on earth do I want to spend the little bit of leisure time I've got watching stuff that's more depressing or as depressing? Same reason why I haven't been to the Grand Canyon. My life was a Grand Canyon. So I'd finally hit the bottom of that Grand Canyon, and sitting there in that car, I picked up my phone. I called a therapist. Talking about making me itch. You know, when you do something that's uncomfortable, that itch. It was like putting on a wool coat with nothing underneath it. It just itched. It did not feel good, not even a little bit. Benadryl couldn't touch that itch. So called a therapist, and I started therapy. And I started to learn a lot about myself. I thought I didn't like the silence. Apparently, I didn't like the truth either. So, at least in the silence, it was just my head. And I could, sometimes silence that spider in my head. But other times, But when you're hearing someone else help you walk through and navigate the recesses of your mind that you had kept hidden for so long, things that you had not even put together, I hadn't realized that it was possible to have both a fear of failure and to be a perfectionist at the same time. Do you know those go hand in hand? Think about it. So, if you are a perfectionist, oftentimes you end up in the whole analysis of paralysis. You don't move forward because you always want to get it right. Sometimes people wonder, again, as an educator, I had children in my room that were gifted, and you're figuring, why on earth do they have zeros in the grade book? Why isn't their work turned in? It's because they're afraid to turn it in. They don't want to get something wrong. And so they keep on redoing it and redoing it and redoing it. I shared with Michelle that she'd been waiting for my slides. I kept working on them, kept changing them, kept tweaking them. And the crazy thing about it is I know that perfectionism is an issue. I know that perfectionism is a problem. I also know that green M&Ms aren't a vegetable. That doesn't stop me from calling them a vegetable. Think about it. Chocolate comes from a plant, from the cacao bean. If the shell is green, it's a green vegetable. I'm just saying. As soon as my doctor will get on board with my line of thinking, we'll have a whole lot less arguments. I don't know what his problem is. It makes perfect sense to me. But when we're thinking about the whole idea of where it is that we're at, and the fact that if we don't understand who we are, how do we know where we're going? How do we even know what we should be wanting? How do we know what we should be praying for, what we should be working towards, what we should be thriving for? How do we know? But if we've been in denial for years, cognizantly or non-cognizantly, of who we are. And so this therapist started helping me process things. I thought I wanted to be seen. Careful what you ask for. I'm not so sure that I really was comfortable with being seen. And that's something I think many of us go through. We think we want to be seen. We think we want to be noticed. But I think it's actually, we want people to see the versions of us that we want them to see, whether that's truly us or not, right? We want them to see who we want to be. One of the things that my therapist helped me to process was the idea of, I said, so you mean to tell me I've been lying to myself? She says, no, it's not exactly lying. I said, okay, sounds interesting, maybe I can use this. So lying is something you do intentionally. But when you believe a false reality because you don't know any better, or because that's truly what you think, it's not quite the same thing as lying. I used to always tell people all the time, I love change. I dance in the gray. And it was funny, she said, no, you don't. What? Who are you? But she was right. I want to say that I love change. I want to be comfortable with change. I also want to be 29 in a size 4. Just because I want it doesn't make it reality. But in my mind, I had always said, I dance in the gray. For years, I did not know that I had ADHD. Most people who have met me for 5 minutes are like, how did you not know? But in my life, so when you're an educator and a teacher, and then as a school administrator, you never have the luxury of focusing on just one thing for 5 minutes, let alone a sustained amount of time. So you don't realize it. You know, that's how life is. And in my mind, the way that I thought was the way that everybody thought. You know, I had no idea that, you know, mine was drinking booze and yours was drinking water. Had no idea. Completely oblivious. So when you start to learn things about yourself, the good and the bad, realize that I had suppressed feelings. Honesty, like I said, that silence in the quicksand, it's loud. So I mentioned earlier that I have some control issues. There was one thing that my therapist said to me that shook me to my core. She says, Carolyn, there's no such thing as control. And I'm like, it's in the dictionary. What do you mean there's no such thing as control? I've got a couple of degrees I can read. She says, not control the way that you think of control. Do you all know that that messed with my mind so bad I had a nightmare that night? I dreamed that for some reason, I had the power to decide if this group or this group or this group or this group lived. We were at the end times, and I had the button. And the crazy thing about it, kind of like that movie, The Groundhog Day, apparently I kept getting it wrong because I'd choose. Everybody would die. And then it would reset. I'd choose again. Everybody would die. And I'd reset. I'd choose again and again. And it didn't matter what I chose. It was like Groundhog Day. Could not wake up from it. But pushing that button. First of all, why would anybody give me the button? But anyway, and when I told her about that in our next session, I said, I'm mad at you. And she said, okay. But the whole idea, we think we're in control. When truly our locus of control, or those things which we can actually control, are very few. Very, very few. When you think about life on this planet, we have so much control. Everything else that's going on around us, we may be able to influence it. Maybe. But we can't control it. That messes with someone who's got a control issue. And I had lived all these lives, all these years, 29, all these years thinking I was a woman in control. I was a strong, independent woman in control of everything. in a very situation that I encountered. Gosh, I was wrong. And that whole realization shook me to who I was. It shook me to, then who am I? That whole idea of integrating into that new situation, trying to figure out the who you are. She asked me a question. And for those of you that don't know, I am rarely at a loss of words. I talk in my sleep. I never shut up. I would have been the kid in class that they would have had to give talking chips to, and for them to say, you've used all your chips. It's someone else's turn. I repeat myself. That's just what I do. Drives my kids crazy because I'll say the same thing over and over again. Part of that is ADHD. Part of it's because I'm a teacher. That's what we do. Research tells you that you need to repeat yourself multiple times and teach it in multiple ways for someone to learn it. I was a good student. I learned it. Now I can't unlearn it. So, I talk a lot. Never shut up. But the whole idea of the thought that I had to come to understand that I wasn't in control. I had to come to understand that I could not change all the things that were going on, and I had to do what I could do. But who am I if I'm not the strong one? Who am I if I'm not the one that my kids can rely on? Who am I if I can't put out that fire that you set over there at that school that you should not have been doing what you did anyway? Because I done told you. Anyway, who am I? My therapist asked me a question, simple question. Carolyn, what do you love to do? Is that a hard question? She didn't ask me to solve a quadratic formula. She didn't ask me to do calculus, physics. She didn't ask me what makes a plane able to stay in the air. Or how is it that Royal Caribbean floating sea or floating city can stay afloat in the water? She didn't ask me that. She asked me something about me. She said, Carolyn, that's me. Carolyn, what do you love to do? Talk about feeling stupid. How could I not answer that question? I started naming things, and she kept interrupting me. Again, I'm the youngest child, so I'm used to being the center of attention. I did not do well with being interrupted. But she kept on interrupting me. She says, no, that's not for you. I named something else. She said, no, that's something you have to do. I named something else. Nope, that's not for you. The names for her that were going through my mind at that time. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm paying you, and you are peeing all over my O's, my Cheerios, and they're getting a little soggy. But she kept on. She would not accept, kind of like, you know, that teacher when you give an answer and they say, tell me more. Tell me more. And they won't just accept your yes or your no answer. I could not name, you guys. I could not name what I love. Like I said, I got a couple degrees. I think I'm a smart person, you know, at least a little bit. They entrusted me with running an entire school of kids. I'm a director at the level that I try to stop us from being sued. And I could not answer a question about myself. Do you know how much I've judged people? Shouldn't have. But how much I've judged people in interviews when I ask them questions that they can't answer? And even the easy ones. Tell me a little bit about yourself. You know that question's coming. Tell me about your strengths. You know that one's coming too. Tell me about your weaknesses. You know that one's coming too. You wouldn't believe some of the answers I've got. There was this one person when I asked her, tell me about your strengths. And she paused. And then she finally said, I'm clean. That part. So all of the things that went through my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, is she telling me that she's OCD about cleanliness? Is she a germaphobe? Is she recovering from alcohol, recovering from drugs, happened to take a shower that day? All the things went through my mind. And in retrospect, I was judging that person, and needless to say, I did not hire her, but I was judging this person based on the fact that she couldn't even tell me what her strengths were. What a hypocrite. I couldn't tell the therapist that I'm paying what I loved. If you stop and think about it for a second, do you know what you love? Bathroom talk earlier, as Denise mentioned, we were in the bathroom, we were having conversations. OCD tendencies, like I told you. So when I was in high school, I took an accounting class. And to me, it was I love the fact that I could find the missing penny. My children will laugh at me now because I'm horrible with budgets. My thing is, as long as there's still money in the account, I can spend what I want. I know that's not smart. That's why I'm not a financial counselor or a financial coach. Just saying, I know my limitations. But I love the fact that when I did that accounting, I could find the missing penny, that I could reconcile the balance sheet and make the debits equal the credits, probably because it wasn't my money. So, I mean, I balanced, I handled an entire school budget, and we were never in trouble. So, I can handle other people's money, just not my own. But, so, took an accounting class my junior year in high school. Loved it. So my senior year, they talked about offering accounting too. There was only like 8 or 10 of us that signed up for it. That's not enough to make an entire class. But what they did, surprisingly, was they allowed our group to be part of the back of the Accounting 1 class. So we were kind of like, the teacher would teach the Accounting 1, then come back and work with us, kind of like a, differentiated instruction where you actually meet the needs of the kids in the classroom. Anyway, but teacher that year had a car accident and ended up breaking her leg. I mean, nothing major, but she broke her leg. And for Accounting 1, the lesson plan said for the substitute, because we all know substitutes when they come, they don't necessarily know the subject that they're teaching. I got to teach Accounting 1. So the lesson plan said, take roll, give the general instructions, hand the lesson plan to Carolyn. Power, control. I was in my world. I was in my element. Loved it. So when I went away to college, because like I said, foster girls will go to college, not a question. So when I went away to college, I was majoring in accounting. I thought I loved it. I got to cost accounting. Someone else feels my pain. Cost accounting, for those of you that don't know, it's the bully of the accounting classes. It's the bully. It beat me up, took my lunch money, and stole my tennis shoes. And I changed my major. So instead of being an accountant, I decided I like business. So I switched my major to business management. How many of you know that when you think you've got a plan and you tell God your plan, he kind of giggles just a little bit. He kind of laughs just a little bit. So I was set. I'm a foster girl. We can't fail. We will succeed. You have a plan, because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, and that was not allowed in my house. So switched from accounting to business management. I had to work while I was in college. I ended up working first as an educational assistant. I didn't go looking for the job. Then from educational assistant, I became a long-term substitute. I was in the position where I was working as a substitute or an EA in the building, and they needed someone for special education. That was never on my radar. Ended up working as a long-term sub and substitute, and absolutely, at that time, fell in love with what I was doing. The idea, first of all, of being able to help those children who have the least amount of voice, those children who are often overlooked, unseen, unheard, marginalized, devalued, and underestimated. Why not? Right? Why not? So I ended up going into special education. Now, granted, like I said, I was in college to get a degree in business management. They had an alternative certification program. So I was able to finish my degree in business management because it was the quickest route. And I'm a foster girl, so that's what we do. We take the smartest, quickest, most efficient route to accomplish what it is that we're trying to accomplish, because that's how you do things. I can still to this day tell you the correct way to do dishes if anybody wants to know. Because the major taught me that, Carolyn, there's a systematic way to do everything. So I can tell you if you're interested. But so I was getting my degree in business management. And in that time, like I said, I did the alternative teaching certification program and became a special education teacher. That was never on my radar. That wasn't my plan. It was his plan. In that time, like I said, I had that passion. I went into education because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make sure that someone else's life was better and that I had, because of his grace, a small part in making that happen. That I helped someone to know that they mattered, that they were seen, and that they could succeed. Maybe differently, maybe at a different level, but they were worthy. And then fast forward to where I was. In today's education system, I feel like it's hard to do that. And I'm not talking about just my district, so don't anybody say, hey, she's talking about that. Education in general. We're living in a different world. And so that whole idea of what we're doing. So I went into education because at the time, I loved it. And now, I want to love it. I do. I want to love it. I also want to love vegetables. That's not happening either. But I wanted to love it. Have you ever done something day in and day out because you feel you're supposed to? But because you've invested so much in it that you feel like you've got to see it through? Have you ever continued to do something even though you've lost passion for it because you're okay at it, pretty good at it, who knows? But you've got all the credentials for it and you're doing it on autopilot. Even though you're doing it, it's draining you. It is sucking the joy out of your soul. What do you love to do? Should be such an easy question. What do you love to do? That one question caused me to realize something's got to break. That song, Something's Got to Break. Something had to change. Not sure yet what, but at that point I knew the fact that I could not name that which I loved doing. I had to change that. I struggle with not being able to quantify things, not being able to qualify things, not being able to name it, define it, explain it. It makes me itch. So I knew that something had to change. Knew I had to do something, right? So, reflecting back again on the woman at the well, and thinking also of my conversation with my therapist. Although I felt like she was judging me, and although that conversation with my father, I felt like he was judging me, it wasn't about judgment. And my therapist wasn't trying to fix me. My father wasn't trying to fix me. It was about being seen. It was about understanding that where you are right now, as you are, like that song, Just As You Are, Come. It wasn't about the judgment. It wasn't about the fact that I had or thought I needed to have everything figured out. It was just about acknowledging. You do understand that you can't change something until you acknowledge that there is something that needs to be changed. There's no reason, again, to shift, to grow, to change if you're comfortable. Even if you're comfortable in the mess. Even if you're comfortable being less than that which you were meant to be. Our first conversation, we talked about 3 of the core values. We talked about the purpose, that we each have a purpose, that God has a plan for us. We talked about how God is our hope, that when we invest in Him, that when we trust in Him, when we rely on Him, unlike my mother who's a rock who grew wings, God is the rock that does not change. God is the rock that is forevermore, that will always be there. So we have our hope in God. We talked about how we must be open to the fact that change causes us to grow, to stretch, to step further into what it is that we're supposed to be doing, to challenge either our current beliefs, our current systems, our current routines, our current autopilot status. When we think about the fact of being seen, it's empowering. When you all gave each other a good hello, when you spoke to each other, when you got to know something about each other, not just, "Hey, how you doing?" but actually find out something about that other person. When you took a moment to intentionally connect, that's empowering. It's not just about the big things, the burning bushes. It's about the one good hello, that intentionality, and understanding that nurturing. When I had to come to accept and understand that my mother, my rock, wasn't perfect. I thought she was. And I thought that her way of being mom was the only way you do it. But we understand that we give from the cup that we have. She gave to me what she had to give to me. And not saying, because when you think about this in retrospect, like I said, I have to qualify, quantify, explain, and describe everything. I had to spend some time, again in that quicksand, thinking about why she felt that was strength. And although my mother also lied about her age, like I said, she was 87 when she passed, and I'm the youngest of her children. So if you think historically in context, she had to be strong. She didn't have a choice. Her very survival depended on portraying that strength. That's why she taught me what she taught me. It was about survival. That's why she had all the stuff in her pantry. If anybody in the neighborhood needed something, Mom had 5 of it in the pantry. And for the longest when I was growing up, I didn't understand why. But when you grow up without, and you understand that you never know what tomorrow's going to bring, you prepare for it. You prepare for it. That's why we had the deep freezer, and she bought meat by the half of a cow, a side of beef. And it was all wrapped up in the, I hate it when she said, "Go out to that refrigerator, out to the freezer, Carolyn, and get me XYZ. You had to go out there and dig in that chest and find, hopefully, unfrost and hope that the marker didn't smear on that wax butcher paper so you could figure out what it was. Because Lord help you if you brought her the wrong thing, waited for it to thaw out, she's ready to cook dinner, and what you brought isn't what she was expecting you to bring. Just saying. I didn't do much of the cooking, but I did do a lot of the digging and the bringing. But nurturing, understanding that we have to give ourselves grace. It's awareness without judgment. We do what we can do. That's all you can do. You can only be the best you that you know how to be. Now, granted, when you know better, you're responsible to do better, which is why I eat a few vegetables. And I do mean a few. But you can't be expected to do better if you don't know better. And I would never judge the way that I was brought up. Like I said, for my mother, that strength was survival, period. No apologies, no questions, no, period. That was survival. So that's what she taught her daughters. But in today's day and age, I have to understand, A, I'm not my mama. I only hope to be half the woman that she was, but I'm not my mama. And I have to understand for me what my path is, what my step to the left, step to the right, what that is for me. And I have to be able to accept who I am and look at that with grace, not with judgment, not with shame, because we can't grow from a degree of shame. We can't grow from when we're judging ourselves. In special education, one of the things that I believe wholeheartedly in is that we should look at every individual, every situation from a strengths-based perspective. If all we think about is what you can't, what I can't, then how on earth do we know where to start building? You've got to know what you can do as our starting point for what you shall work toward being able to do, right? The same thing with looking at ourselves. If all we think about is our deficits of what we can't, what we shan't, what other people have told us, what they've labeled us, how do we improve? How do we grow? You've got to start with where you are and what you can do. Just take that first one, right? We got to start there. Earlier we talked about release and we talked about receive. Spoiler alert, ADHD, this part you already did. See and send. What I challenge you to do, we're only going to be together today. Although I want to live in Franklin because apparently y'all have none of the challenges, none of the this, so we'll have to look into that. But what I wanted you to do, and I challenge you to do also, is even when you leave this place, don't forget about the power of one good hello. Intentionally look for those people who need it. Look for those people who need to be seen, those people who may go unnoticed, those people who need someone to see in them what they do not yet see in themselves. And then you're going to send something back into their life. That's the power of one good hello. That's the power. But if you don't take time to slow down and to look and to see and to notice, you can't do. And if you're just going through life on autopilot or just going through life thinking about yourself, you may not see, you may not notice, and you may not intentionally take time to impact someone else. Earlier, I asked you to think about someone who's poured into your mind, into your life. Someone who has caused you to improve or to realize that you matter because they showed you a good hello. They gave you paper, they gave you pen. Take a moment to actually write down the name of that person that you're going to seek out. Today's Saturday. In the next 7 days, who is it that you're going to intentionally connect with? Why do I ask you to do something? As far as writing it down, there's power in getting it from your mind to putting it on paper. In your mind, it's just a thought. Once you put it on paper, you've made it tangible. You can see it. You can touch it. It makes a difference. Does that mean it's absolutely going to happen? No. But it's greater chance that it's going to. And you can see it. So think about who it is that you want to intentionally impact. Mahalia Jackson, and this is going to show my age and the fact that I'm not 29. Anyway, there's a song called If I Can Help Somebody. If, while I'm going through this world, I can help somebody, that means my living will not have been in vain. Jeannie's journey from black and white to a vibrant tapestry is that embodied. Jeannie's journey is about a woman who I knew by the name of Jeannie Hodges, an everyday, ordinary person who was absolutely extraordinary. It tells her story of going through segregation and desegregation in a small northeast town. I say small, they don't think so. Kingsport, Tennessee. She lived her life wanting to make sure that she made things better for other people. This was her favorite song and has come to be one of mine. Much like my mother, Jeannie and my mother have a whole lot of things in common. And so if I could be half the person that my mother was and half the person that Jeannie was, y'all can't touch me then. Not there yet. Not there yet. But thinking about the idea, it doesn't have to be something big. Mahalia Jackson was talking about if I can help somebody while I'm singing a song. Through a word or a song, if I could help somebody, then my living will not have been in vain. And ladies, this is the women's ministry. Encouragement is ministry. Encouragement is ministry. It's absolutely great that we get together and we feed those who are hungry. But as God told the woman at the well, they need the living water too. They need the living water too. Lifting other people up, empowering other people, that's service. That's ministry. That's the power of one good hello. If you all would join me in saying this, I won't make you stand up this time. My children's book, who I hoped would have been ready by today, there's a repeating phrase in the book. It's about a little boy who realizes that he feels small, he feels different. And although I don't say it in the book, the child has autism, and it talks about how the fact that he notices that other people look at him and laugh and giggle, and he feels different. His grandmother always told him, though, I am loved, I am special, my journey matters. For the longest, I used to think that affirmations were, like I said, that Pollyanna craziness. It's like, how do you think just because I say something positive that it's going to change my life? So if I wake up tomorrow and say, I'm a millionaire, that money's just going to materialize in my back pocket. That's not what affirmations are about. What I've come to understand and what I've come to learn is that the power of life is in the tongue. Guess what? That's in the good book. The power of life is in the tongue. So it's not a matter of saying that because I speak it, it shall happen. But guess what? If you go around saying, I'm a broke person, I'm a depressed person, we get out of life that which we look for. So if we focus on just the negative, that's what you're going to see. But like I said, just because I say I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow doesn't mean I'm going to wake up and have that money magically in my pocket. But what it does mean is that if I keep saying I'm going to achieve something, much like James Clear says in Atomic Habits, much like Stephen Covey says in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, much like the good book says, when you focus on where it is that you want to be, you have a transformation. You change who you believe you are, and our action follows our beliefs. If I believe that I'm a successful person, I'm going to start doing things that successful people do. Does that mean that I'm going to magically have $1 million? No, but every small step is a step towards that direction instead of a step towards being more broke, right? It's the same thing with an affirmation. Just because you say something positive doesn't mean it's going to automatically change your entire life. Possible. But what it does mean is that it shifts your mindset to focusing on the positive. Can you be in a state of gratitude and a state of anger simultaneously at the exact same time? Think about it. I want you to stop for a second and in your mind, think of something that you're grateful for. And at the same time, I want you to think of somebody that you want to punch in the throat. Do those same thoughts live at the same time simultaneously? Isn't it hard to be thinking about what we're grateful for and also be thinking about that which makes us mad or that which I lack at the same time? If I say I'm blessed and highly favored, it's hard for me to say, but God, where are you? That math ain't mathin', right? So, did it go to sleep, Michelle? It's the battery. So if you think about it, though, if we think about, I am loved, repeat after me. It is not 7 o'clock in the morning. We're going to try this again. Remember, I'm a teacher. I can do this all day. I am loved. Much better. Thank you. I am special. My journey matters. Now say it like you mean it. I am loved. I am special. And my journey matters. So that's the first step, is being able to acknowledge it. But do you know what to do? So now I felt seen. My therapist saw me. And granted, my parents saw me long before. My therapist helped me to see me. She helped me to understand that I didn't even know what I loved. So I knew that something needed to change. I felt down deep that what I was wearing was no longer fitting, that this was no longer my wardrobe, no longer my identity, that I needed to step into something different. So now that I'm seen, now what? Lunch. That's what. Time for lunch.
Welcome back, everyone. Everyone nice and full. But before you guys fall asleep, let's stand on our feet. I searched the world, but it wouldn't fill me. Man's empty praise, the treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along and put me back together. And every
For your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up till I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. But I have lived in the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Your goodness is running after, it's running after me.
Your goodness is running after,
It's running after
me. My life laid down, I surrender now. I'll give you everything. Your goodness is running after,
It's running
after me.
One more time.
Your goodness is running after,
It's running
after me.
Your goodness is running after, it's running after
me.
With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything.
Your goodness is running after,
It's running after me. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. Every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. One more time.
All my life you have been faithful.
All my life
You have been so, so good.
every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Once blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious is that grace appeared the hour I first believed. My chains chains are gone, been set free. My God, my Savior, ransom me. Like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. Y'all sing it. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior, ransom me. Like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace, unending love, amazing grace.
All right, well, we're back in session, you guys, and so we're going to thank you so very much to Craig and Taylor.
Oh, you guys first. Thank you.
Thank you. And also to all of you who can cook, thank you. I don't cook much. When I first got married, like I told you guys, I'm the youngest of four. So when I first got married, my idea of cooking was to each night have a different version of Hamburger Helper. So it was hamburger cheesy mac, hamburger lasagna, the original, and anything else was baked. I baked the pork chops, I baked the chicken, I baked the steak. I just got put in a Pyrex bowl, some seasoning and foil. That was my idea of cooking because I didn't know. So those of you that can cook, I just want to say thank you. It was good. It was good. I really, really appreciate it. I'm ready for a nap, but it was really, really good. So I'm going to do my best. Hopefully I don't speed up too much, but like I said, my belly's full. I'm ready to go now. All right. Thank you guys so much, though. Let me get us caught back up. We lost power earlier. So like I said, scene, now what? There we go. Choosing to rise. Choosing to rise. So when we think about a choice, oftentimes it's a choice that we make once. We don't necessarily make the same choice day in and day out, let alone hour to hour to hour. But choosing to rise is not a typical choice. So far, we've talked about the holding on so tightly to things that we have to learn how to release it so that we can receive. We talked about finally being seen, not just by others, but by ourselves. Now we're going to talk about what we do with being seen. What is the choice that we're called to make now that we're seen? Again, like I said, this isn't a decision that you make just once. How many of you have ever heard the story or the saying, don't wait until you feel ready, because ready's not a feeling, it's a decision? Same thing here. Thank you for the hand. Thank you. Same thing here. Rising is not a feeling. It's a choice. It's a deliberate choice, an intentional choice, and not always an easy one. Not always an easy choice. Absolutely a decision that we make. In the Bible, as we've talked about in each one of our talks today, there's a woman that personifies what it is that we've been talking about. I want to talk a little bit about, and the last time I think I said queen. Let's talk a little bit about Queen Esther. So Queen Esther, the saying that I think we're all most familiar with is, for such a time as this. Queen Esther was Jewish. She was living in a world where most people didn't know that she was Jewish. And there was a decree made where they were going to try to eliminate the other Jews that were in that town. Her cousin, I believe his name, it's Mordecai, her cousin challenged her, said, you have the position, you have the voice, you have the ability, you have got to say something. These are your people. Are you going to stay silent and let them perish? There's another great leader that I think of when I think about that whole idea of staying silent. I think it was Dr. King who said that one of the worst things we have is that when people stay silent in the face of things that are going on, not just simply that they're doing them, but even more so the people who know that those things shouldn't be done, and they stay silent. So Esther was, like I said, Jewish, but she was the queen. So she was living in luxury, and she had that protection because of her role, because of her title, because of her position, and also because of the fact that most people didn't know she was Jewish. She could have absolutely kept her mouth shut, turned, not looked, not paid attention, and known that she would be okay. She would be okay. But she knew that all these people that she either loved or knew about would not be. So Mordecai challenged her, and she chose. But the thing about it, though, is that she chose not to be passive. She chose to be bold, but she chose to do so with wise counsel. She didn't just rush into something with, like ADHD patterns and tendencies. She chose to take time. So she asked all of the other Jewish people in the community to fast for 3 days, to fast and to pray, to make sure that she was prepared, that she was ready to step into what she was about to step into. She knew that she could not do it under her own power. She knew that she could not do it without the divine strength, courage, and ability that God was gifting her with. So she knew that she was called to something greater. I think we use that word a lot. I'm called. I feel called. I know I'm called. She was called to do something greater. And so she chose, again, that's a choice. She chose to risk her life in order to be able to not be passive, in order to step into her purpose, step away from that comfort, that which we know, and intentionally move towards what could have been her last conversation. Her last conversation. She approached the king uninvited, and she told him about who she was and what was going on. She chose to speak up, regardless of what it might cost her. So when we think about what's going on, she trusts God. Even though we think about the idea that the future, she knew what was possible. She doesn't know what's going to happen. She chose to embrace her purpose and step into what she was supposed to do. She took courage. Courage doesn't mean that we're not afraid. Courage, like Winnie the Pooh says, we're afraid, but we do it anyway. Yes, I referenced another cartoon. But we are afraid, but we do it anyway. We step into it because we know it's the right thing to do. We know it's what we're supposed to do. We know that that's our purpose, our mission, our assignment, and she understood the assignment. And so she stepped forward. So when we think about Esther and we think about the things that we can learn from her, again, she had a choice. She could have chose to not step forward. She could have chose to remain silent. She could have chose her comfort, her assured safety, and not risk everything. But she knew that that's not what she was there for. So sometimes we have to think about whether or not we're in a period in our lives, if we're in a season, or if we've been in situations where we are called for such a time as this. When we know that what we've been doing is not what we need to do, that either we need to do more or we need to do differently. A lot of people would say, but I know that I was called. This is what I was supposed to be doing. And as an English teacher, yes, I know earlier I said math teacher. Remember, special education, we teach it all. As an English teacher, I would say that you need to focus on that word was. Just because God is unchanging, that doesn't mean that his plan for you is unchanging. When we think about the fact that we are humans in a world that is ever changing, why would we ever assume, again, we're talking about assumptions and we're not going to say what that happens, but why would we ever even think that this assignment that we received at one point, as we've continued to grow and to change and to learn and to encounter new people and all along the way, why would we think that the assignment stays the same? Why would we think that that calling stays the same? Why would we assume that we would not be called to do something different, something more, something somewhere else? If we're changing, how would we assume that that calling should or would stay the same? Once upon a time, you guys were all babies, and you had to learn to crawl. After you learned to crawl, the challenge changed. You were no longer called to learn to crawl. Now, because you know better, you're called to do better. You're called to do more. You're called to step up. You're called to rise and learn to walk. Once you can walk, then you can run. Once you run, you can spread those wings and you can fly. It's all about understanding that just because something was your calling doesn't mean that you missed it, doesn't mean that you misunderstood it, that you misheard it, or that you were on the wrong path. It's about understanding the fact that just because that was your calling, just because that was the assignment, doesn't mean that that stays the assignment. So, is it such a time for this? Like I said, rising isn't always easy. The song that we sang, I love the fact that it talks about he gives us beauty for ashes. I told you earlier that I'm a little obsessed with the phoenix. And although the Bible does never actually says the word phoenix, in my mind, kind of like the green vegetable, M&M, in my mind, it gives us several references to the phoenix. When we think about beauty from ashes, and we think about the chance to be able to rise from the struggles that we go to, we sing in so many songs about going through the fire. And you guys, there's two choices. When you go through the fire, you notice I said when. Again, I'm an English teacher. When, not if. When, and it's not once. When you go through the fire, you've got two choices. You can choose to be consumed in that fire, or you can choose to be transformed through it. I'm not saying transformed by it, because he's the only one that does that transformation. But I'm saying transformed through the fire. Those are the two choices. But the only way that you're transformed through it is that you make a choice that on the other side of that, you choose to rise. Because it's your choice. God absolutely gave us free will. And yes, he has a plan for us. But remember, his timeline is not our timeline. And so what we choose to do each day, each hour, each minute, each second, we have control. A little bit. But we have free choice. We have a will. We have input in what we do with that. And so whether or not you choose to rise or if you choose to be consumed in that fire, it's your choice. So I've told you a little bit about my story. I told you about how my world changed on August 8th, 2021, when I lost my mother. I told you a little bit about my father, the Major, and how what he meant for positivity absolutely was taken by me in a different way, ingrained, embedded, and programmed in my mind. I told you a little bit about how I went into education because I had a passion for helping children, especially those that didn't have a voice, or at least the ones that weren't heard, the ones that were underestimated. And I wanted so desperately to help them know that their journey matters, that they matter, that I see them, that I'm willing to meet them where they are and help them to get to where they can be. That's why I went into education, to make a difference. I talked to you a little bit about the season in my life. I talk about 4 seasons. When you look at the book that I wrote and the things that I talk about, much like in the Bible and much like in nature when we look outside, life goes through seasons. The spider in my head looks at it this way. I look at the seasons that we go through as seasons of rising, reflecting, renewing, and thriving. And it's not linear. It's not about meet rising, yay, I'm done. And then I reflect, yay, I'm done. It's absolutely not linear. Much like when you think about the seasons in nature, they come back around. Sometimes in the middle of another season. Sometimes we're expecting there to be sunshine and we've got snow. Other times we're expecting there to be snow and we're walking around in flip-flops and shorts. So just like the seasons in nature are not linear, and we revisit them again and again and again, so are the seasons in our life. So when I was going through a season, like I said, in that quicksand, a season of reflecting, and I had to learn how to see myself for who I really was. I had to learn how to accept the things that I had been hiding, not just from everybody else, but from myself. The things that I hadn't even acknowledged, the lack of control, the fact that I don't love change, the fact that my passion was shifting, trying to figure out who I was in the midst of all that. Mustering up the strength to say, much like Denise had said just a moment ago, when you need help actually reaching out for it, mustering up the strength when I was raised as a strong woman who doesn't discuss their feelings and does not cry and does not say that I can't, I need help. And reaching out for therapy and having all those things exposed in my life and hearing those things, not just now in my mind, but outside of my head as well. And then not being able to name what I love, not even knowing what I love. Who I love? Absolutely. But what I love. What is it that I love to do? What is it that gives me passion now? What is it that fills my cup? And I knew that I had to figure out something. And you guys, this is going to sound crazy. Based on that conversation, because I'm a little bit extra, I started a business. Why? Why not? So if I couldn't name it, if I couldn't find it, I couldn't see it on the map, my GPS didn't have a place on it that said love and happiness, I decided I'd create it. That's where Good Hello came from. Because I needed a good hello in my life. So I figured I'd create it. I felt that I needed some positivity in my life. So I'm throwing a women's conference. Why? Because I need it, so I figure everybody else does too. So the whole idea that since I couldn't name what I loved, the Major, my father, had always taught me, and this was another thing that stuck with me, Carolyn, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. I could not have an answer. And nobody else was going to give me one. Don't you all hate it when you pay a therapist and they won't just tell you the answer? I'm a life coach, by the way. I do the same thing to y'all. So we don't give you the answers. We help you to find that which is already within you. Isn't that frustrating? Because it would be so much easier if you just told me that 2 + 2 = 4. Just like when my students came to me and they said, just tell me the answer. No, we help you to find it, right? So I couldn't figure out what it was that I loved. And so I decided I was going to create it. Did I know what I was going to do? No. So why did I start a business? Am I telling you that's what you need to do? Absolutely not. So for me, if I don't go all in, it's easier for me to walk away from it. Kind of like when I told you earlier to write down the name of the person that you were going to give your good hello to. Because when you write it down, it makes it real. It's tangible. It's kind of like where my coach says, you need to make a vision board. And because I like the easy way, I said, well, can I just pull together clip art on the computer? He said, no. You need to make a vision board. He says, you need to touch it. You need to feel it. You assemble it. Because then it means more. It's kind of like that first car that you got. If your parents just give it to you, when you wreck your first car, it doesn't mean the same thing as if you had to work to earn it. You get out of it what you put into it. So when I was thinking about what do I love? What do I want to do? Did y'all know that I was creative? I didn't. I didn't know. So I started thinking about what do I like to do? And one of the things was that my therapist challenged me to start writing about the way that I felt. Because, I had been suppressing feelings for so long and ignoring them. And, I knew two, happy or mad. Happy or mad were the two feelings. Got those down pat. So she wanted me to start writing about the way that I felt. Start writing about the things that I want. Start writing about the things that made me happy. She challenged me to just do something different. Change? You want me to do what? And I'm paying you to make me feel uncomfortable? Really? And so when we start thinking about you're doing these things, it's like, I didn't know I could do that. That's kind of interesting. And then I told you the story about Jeannie Hodges. So Jeannie passed away in September of 24. This conversation with my therapist, I believe, was in October of 24. And so started having these conversations with myself because I was there. And like I said, the silence is loud, y'all. When Jeannie passed away, and I'm thinking of figuring out who I am, where I want to go next, of what my journey needs to be. Jeannie's journey from black and white to vibrant tapestry was actually my dissertation. It was written first in 2009. Jeannie passed away in September of 24, and I decided her legacy was not going to die with her. So I decided in January, during the week of Martin Luther King's birthday, I published it as a book. And of course, people had told me, you can't publish a dissertation. Luckily, I have people in my life, like my daughter, who says, yeah, you can. And also because I said, I hate it when people tell me what I can't do. There's a Tasha Cobbs song that talks about do it anyway. If you haven't heard it, more homework, Google it. Write it down, Google it. But yes, she talks about do it anyway. Don't tell me what I can't do, because I'm going to do it anyway. But when I published that book, it was almost like it ignited something in me. I had told one person, I said, I'm going to be an author. And the first thing they said to me was one of these, have you published something? And that self-doubt kicked back in. I told someone else that I was going to be a public speaker. A friend, one of those friends that we talked about earlier that say things to you, usually in good spirits or as being helpful. And she looked at me with this puzzled look on her face. Paused for a second, really intentional. And she said, why would anybody want to come listen to you talk? And I internalized that. And so not only was the spider in my head telling me, you can't. You're less than. Who do you think you are anyway? All of this, and I've also got it from people coming from the outside. We were talking earlier, I think, about teachers and the impact of teachers. I won't go into the story about my 3.9 GPA and the teacher. Anyway, but I still remember to this day, in high school, I can't tell you her real name because we called her Yoda. This little wrinkled up, old, mean lady. First day of school, honors chemistry. She stands in front of the classroom, clears her throat, looks at us, and says, this is an honors chemistry class. Half of you don't belong here, and you will fail. Senior year in high school, I still remember this conversation. Two choices. Prove her right or prove her wrong. do it anyway. So the thing that I kept on seeing in my life, when we talk about the tagline that I have, is choosing to rise, learning to thrive. And remember the story I told you about the lady who prayed for God to come and save her, and she ended up dying on that bench because she didn't see it when he came? It's funny, and I don't mean funny, ha-ha. I mean funny as in strange. When we look back and we see all these little nuggets, all these little breadcrumbs, like Hansel and Gretel had left them on purpose, that we didn't notice at first. The elementary school where I was a principal at, so I became the first black elementary school principal after desegregation in the same school system where Jeannie Hodges had become the first black employee after desegregation 40 years before. In my elementary school, when I became the principal, we had the highest level of, one of the highest levels of low socioeconomic status in the area, which means a whole lot of our children were in desperate need for support, for help, for encouragement, for uplifting. The lanyard that we had for my teachers, that I made for my, I didn't make, I bought, for my teachers, said I choose. The song that we played over the intercom every morning, the snippet of it was from the song India.Arie. I was talking to a few of you about it at lunch. There's a song by India.Arie that says, because you never know where life is going to take you, and you can't change where you've been, but today, I have the opportunity to choose, and I choose to be the best that I could be. I didn't even think about the fact that for those years, I was principal at that school for 5 years. I didn't even think about at first when I was making this business that for years, I choose was the lanyard and the motto and the song that resonated in my building every single day. Another thing that I did not think about or realize was the whole idea that I gravitated towards those people who needed the most support. And now I speak to women. I work on self-leadership for women. All of these things come together. All of my books, and I say all, there's 2 published, a couple other ones in the works, but they're all about uplifting and empowering people who are normally not listened to, people who are usually considered less than or undervalued as a whole. Not saying individually, but as a whole. So I choose. Also, one of my literary giants is Miss Maya Angelou. And on my wall for years, and it's still, again, not the same picture because, they fade out. There's that poem by her, or the saying by her, that says, in this life, I choose not to merely survive, but to thrive. And to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. If I could be half the speaker that Maya Angelou was, or half the writer, y'all wouldn't be able to touch me. But my tagline again, choosing to rise, learning to thrive, one good hello at a time. I didn't put those things together at first. So I told you how I was going through life on autopilot. I was in survival. I was just surviving. That's what I was doing. Completely in opposite of what I admire, what I believe in, what I was meant to do. None of us are meant to just survive. That's not what he meant for us. We're meant to thrive. Wherever it is that we're planted, and whatever it is that we're doing, whatever the role is, we're meant to thrive, to do it well, to do it as if we were doing it unto him. We're meant to thrive. All of these things came together, and like I said, at first I didn't even realize it. And like I said, I don't know how to do anything small, and I knew that if I didn't pour into it, that it would just be a hobby and I'd dismiss it. So that conversation happened with my therapist in, like I said, around October. December 2nd, I created an LLC. Y'all, you don't need an LLC to write. Carolyn does. So I created an LLC, so that way it was a business. So like I said, she asked me, what do you love? And I couldn't name it. So I created it. I knew that I was meant to teach. I knew that I was called to pour into other people. I knew down to the bottom of my toes that I was meant to uplift other people. But like I said, I've been losing my passion for education. I've been losing my passion for what I'm doing in public education. And I realized teaching, it's got nothing to do with the classroom. Nothing to do with the classroom. God was a teacher. Jesus was a teacher. And absolutely not on that plane. I ain't going, no. But what I'm saying is that you don't have to be in a classroom to teach. If you have children, you're a teacher. If you have grandchildren, nieces, nephews, anybody else that you pour into, you're a teacher. If you're a leader at work, you're teaching the people below you. Sometimes you're teaching the people above you. Just saying. But you're teaching. So the thing is that my passion has nothing to do with the four walls that I'm standing in. The passion is about being able to pour into other people, about being able to help those people to see the potential that's in them. It's got nothing to do with the classroom. So even though I mentioned earlier that your calling can change, sometimes it's just refined. Sometimes it's not a matter of that you've been called to do something completely different. It just might be in the how. Might be in the how. So I absolutely still to this day love to teach. I teach for a university as well because now I'm not in the classroom. And usually the university, when you think about grad students, usually they want to be there. Not always, but usually they want to be there. So the question of Carolyn, what do you love to do? And that odd silence when I was at a loss for words, not normal for me. I couldn't quantify it, couldn't qualify it, couldn't define it, so I defied it. And I decided to create that which I love. And I found out that I am a creative person. I found out that I like to think about things in a different way. I found out that the ADHD that I have, it's not just a curse, sometimes it is, but it's also a gift. And soon, eventually, you'll be able to read about it in a book called The Tangled Gift. I've got a title, but that's as far as we've got, ADHD. But so the whole idea is it's about that perspective. It's about how we look at things and about understanding that you can choose to make the impact that you want to make wherever it is that you go. Esther, yes, she was a queen. But she was a queen in a time when women had almost no rights. And she chose to speak up in a man's world. She chose to risk her life, her person, everything about her, because she knew that staying silent was not the right thing to do. So when I think about learning to navigate my transitions with grace, and I say learning, I didn't say when I learned. It's an ongoing process. I would love to say that I've arrived, but I try to only lie about my weight and my age. So I'm not going to say that I've arrived. I'm still learning. When I talk about the power of one good hello and how little connections can make such a difference, I'd love to say that I always get it right and that I never give people a bad hello. Again, I try to only lie about my age and my weight. We're not called to be perfect. We are called to be faithful. We are called to be obedient, and we're called to do the best that we can. So the thing about it is to understand that it's a daily choice. Sometimes it's an hourly choice, especially when you're gripping that steering wheel and trying to figure out how do I go in this building. You've got to make a choice. When someone does you wrong, you've got a choice. You can choose revenge when they betray you, or you can choose to rise. You can choose to come down to their level, or you can choose to show them the example that they should have followed. When that person cuts you off on the interstate, you can choose to tell them that they're number one, or you can choose to bless them in other ways and keep on moving. It's all about a choice. And we need to understand that rising, it's not about victory. It's not about saying, I won. Rising is a posture. It's a choice of posture of how we carry ourselves. It's about understanding that I will not shrink to make someone else comfortable. It's about understanding that I'm going to stop hiding from who I am and who I'm called to be. I'm going to stop hiding from expectations, risk, the opportunity to fail. Did y'all know that you can't succeed unless you fail? Name one successful person that never failed. You can't. Because you've got to fail to succeed. Failure's not a bad thing. Failure's how we learn. If you never fail at anything, You haven't learned anything. You haven't done anything new, anything different. So for people like me who struggle with that fear of failure, that's an ongoing thing. But understanding that I got to keep on going. I can't hide from it. And then understanding that I'm no longer going to pretend that I'm okay when I'm not. I'm going to stop autopilot. I'm going to stop being just in survival mode. I'm going to nurture me, take care of me, make choices for me, not because I'm selfish, but because how can you give from an empty cup? As I told you earlier, the things that my parents taught me was because they loved me. The things that my parents taught me, they gave me what they had. They poured into me from the well from which they drank. You can't pour from an empty well. If that well is dry, if that well has not been nourished, refreshed, regenerated, rejuvenated, if that well is still full of the ashes that you refuse to stand from, how can you give water to anybody else? So when I say that I'm going to take care of me and stop pretending, it's not about being selfish. It's about finally acknowledging we were called to love others as ourselves, not instead. And I think there's too many of us that believe that our calling is to shrink behind, put everybody else first, and never take care of ourselves. I'm not saying that we step up on a pedestal and say that I am greater than everybody else. What I am saying is that you matter. What I am saying is that you have value. And what I am saying is you are worthy to be loved, and not just by other people, but by you. If you don't nourish you, if you don't value you, hard lesson that I learned, if you don't value you, how can you be mad if someone else doesn't? Why would you expect more of them than you do for yourselves? Why would you expect someone else to see value in you? Now, granted, it does happen, but why should we expect it? If we don't value ourselves and we don't say to ourselves that we're important, that we're worthy, and that we're worthy to be valued and taken care of, why should anybody else? And again, if you don't take care of you, how are you going to take care of everybody else? It's kind of like, anybody in here never been on an airplane? Never. Well, let's go somewhere. But on the airplane, let me go ahead and tell you. On the airplane, you have the stewardess who tell you about the exits are here, here, and here. And they tell you how to fasten the seatbelt and everything, right? One of the other huge things they tell you is that in the event of an emergency, you take that oxygen mask. Who do they tell you to put it on first? Who? You! Why? I can't hear. I got grandma ears. Ah! You think they might have a reason for that? So they tell you to put that oxygen mask on yourself first. How on earth are you going to help somebody else if you did? Right? It's the same thing, even on more daily terms. If you're not pouring into yourself, if you're not taking care of yourself, all those people who you strive to take care of, all those people that you know are leaning on you, how do you hold them up if you don't take care of yourself? If you don't pour into yourself, you've got nothing left to give. You're mush, clay, and not even good clay, the off-brand of Play-Doh. You've got to make sure that you're pouring into yourself. So you need to think about, and like I said, really think. When your mind is screaming at you, you know you're doing it right. If your mind's still saying, everything's wonderful, look at the starbirds and the unicorns and the rainbows, you ain't doing it yet. So sit there a little bit longer. You need to make sure that you're getting to the bottom of who you are, why you are, what you love, what you value, and what it is that you hope to accomplish in this world, and what it is that you think your next step is. And then once you think you got it figured out, get in your prayer closet and make sure that he agrees with you. Because if he don't, I thought I was going to be a CPA. I thought I was going to be a CPA. So once you've done that reflection, you've got a decision to make. How many of you know the song by Donnie McClurkin? and I like you people, just met you, but I like you too much for me to sing it to you. Stand. Do you know that song? After you've done all that you can, you just stand. You all don't know that song? More homework. Goodness gracious. I hope someone's keeping notes because you guys got a lot of homework. There's a song talks about after you've done all that you can, you just stand. What do I do when I've done all that I can? You just stand. In the midst of those ashes, in the midst of the storm, in the midst of everything that's going on, you make a choice and you stand. Why? It's the first step. Can you move forward if you don't stand? From your seated position right now, can you move forward? I mean, you can scooch the chair. But what traction can you make? What impact can you make if you never stand? If you don't make the choice first to take that posture. It's a posture of obedience. When God called people in the Bible, they said, "Here I am." Do you think he didn't know where they were? Really? Do we think that he doesn't know where they were? Of course he did. So their response of "Here I am" was a matter of an acknowledgement of saying, "Yes, I'm ready. Here I am." But you got to stand, right? That's the first thing. After you've done all that you can, you just stand. That song's by Donnie McClurkin, if anybody needs to look it up. Donnie McClurkin. And no, it's not a new one. I don't think I know any new songs. So this morning, we talked about the beginning of my core values. And believe it or not, we've gone through all of them. In the beginning, we talked about purpose and the fact that God has a plan for us. There is a plan. Even if we don't see it, even if we don't feel it, there is a plan. There's a purpose. Even if we try to outrun it, like Job, there's a plan. Hope. God never promised us that we would go through life without struggles. Matter of fact, the good book says you will have trials and tribulations. He don't lie, even about age. I do, but he don't. So even though we are his children, we are his people, we are heirs to the crown. We are children of the God Most High. We are royalty, but you're going to have trials and tribulations. But the thing about it is to understand that in those trials and tribulations, you are not alone unless you choose to be. If you choose to be alone, that's a choice that you make. Out of risk of offending you, I'm not going to say no offense, out of risk of offending you, not a smart choice. We talked about openness, how the fact that transitions change, the only way you can do that is if you're open. If you think about change, change can only happen when you learn enough to want to or hurt enough to have to. Because as human beings, we like to be comfortable. And you can't change in comfort because comfort means it's staying the same. Like my therapist said, I could lie all day and say I love change. But she called me out. I was lying to myself and everybody else. So it's not about the fact of, is it going to happen? But being open to the change, open to that learning. Empowerment. Like I said, encouragement is ministry, ladies. Encouragement is ministry. Are we going about empowering other people? Are we lifting them up? How many of y'all like crab boil or lobster boil or the crab boil? I don't. But the interesting thing about crabs, if you put them in a boiling pot of water and one tries to climb out, what do the other ones do? I can't hear you. It does! Exactly what she said. It grabs them and pulls them right back down. Y'all have any friends like that? That when you're trying to do something better, they try to knock you back down? You know why they do that though, right? Because they're comfortable with the version of you that they knew. They're comfortable with you staying right where you were, especially if who you were and where you were serves their purpose. But those crabs, I don't know if they know that much deep thought, but those crabs, it's like human nature. They pull them back in. They aren't going to let them rise. It's like if we're going to be gumbo, you're going to be gumbo too, right? And we don't need help to do bad, right? We can do that all on our own. So empowerment is about lifting other people up. Empowerment's like being okay and celebrating when someone else achieves, when they get what you thought you wanted. Actually being happy for them. Not that fake, oh, I'm so happy for you. Not that fake happy, but truly being happy and finding joy in someone else's success. Not only finding joy in their success, but actually helping them to be successful. Lifting them up, helping them out. So many times women, and I'm going to call us out on this, so many times women, we know that it's a man's world. Zane, I'm sorry. But we know that it's a man's world, and sometimes we figure that there's only so much room at the top for women. So it's like, I'm going to climb this ladder. Y'all get back down it. Don't you come up behind me, right? So many times we don't want to lift other people up because we think that there's only so much space, and I ain't ready to share it. I want it to be mine. We need to understand that's not what we're meant to do. We're all the body of one Christ. We're all part of the same body. You're going to cut your hand off so that your foot feel better. That don't make any sense. We're meant to help each other. I think that Kentucky's motto has it great. United we stand, divided we fall. And the song by, I think it's King and Country, we will rise together. You know, if we fall, we will fall together. And when we rise, we will rise together. It's about understanding that we need each other. Think about when God sent the people to march around Jericho. Do you think God needed him to march around Jericho 7 times for him to make a wall fall down? Think about when he called Moses to part the Red Sea. Throw his staff on the ground, turn it into a snake. Do you think he needed Moses to do that? No. But he invites us in to his plan, to be a part of his story. We are part of Christ. He wants us in relationship with him. It's not because he needs us. And I won't get into the whole idea about giving money to the church, and people say the church just wants my money. It ain't yours anyway. But the whole idea that we need, no, he doesn't need us. He graces us with his presence and with his forgiveness, with his mercy, and with his faithfulness. So when we think about that empowerment and we think about lifting other people up, that's what we're called to do. And have you ever done something for somebody else and you get that warm feeling inside? Not because you took a picture and posted it on TikTok, but because you did something for somebody without expecting anything in return. I don't think you can beat that feeling. I think that's one of the reasons why teachers teach. That feeling that you've given that child something that nobody else could give them, that you've helped them to realize something in themselves. And I said child, it could be person. Like I said, the classroom's not the place. But it's about empowering. And like I said, nurturing, making sure that we're taking care of ourselves so that we can give to other people. Now we're talking about integrity. We're talking about being honest with ourselves. We're talking about living aligned with who we're supposed to be. Have you ever had a car and it's not in alignment and it shimmies and it shakes, which is great if you're listening to a song. So you still might be able to get down the road, but it is a smooth ride. No. And if you stay out of alignment, does it get any better or does it just get worse and worse and worse? So when we go through life not in alignment, or as I call it, not from our true center, I feel like, yeah, we can continue on autopilot. We can continue surviving. But if we truly want to thrive, if we want to fully live, we need to be in alignment. And what does that mean? Walking in our purpose. Doing what it is that we're supposed to be doing. Living in community with other people. Loving other people. He didn't say you gotta like everybody. I'm just saying. There's a difference between I love you and I like you. You don't have to like everybody. But he says to love people. And sometimes people think that if I love you, that means we've got to be near each other. We've got to be in communication with each other. We have to be in relationship with one another. Just like when they say that if you forgive somebody, you're supposed to forgive and forget. That's not in the version that I read. The version that I read, and maybe you can correct me, I can get it wrong. Yes, we're called to forgive. But reconciliation, that's another thing. If that person is not good for your soul, you can forgive them and go your happy way, right? So understanding that integrity, that walking in alignment, if you're in relationship, if you're in situations with people who are toxic for you, you need to get in alignment. I call it return. You need to return to your true center and understanding where your center is and what the center of that compass is and where it is that you should be finding your direction from. And then excellence. Yes, I know I said I'm a perfectionist, but there's a difference between excellence and perfection. With excellence, we're doing things to the best of our ability, not with the expectation of being perfect, but we're doing things the best that we can. We are doing things in a way that we believe we should be doing. And we are always looking to make tomorrow just a little bit better than today. Again, like I said, it's not about being perfect, but it's about that continual growth. And those of you that were in the school system, I'm sure you hate that phrase. I know I do. The continual growth plan. I'm sure that you hate that plan. But the whole idea behind it does make sense. Because if we think that we've arrived, I've told many a teacher, the day you think you arrived is the day that you need to retire, because you're telling me you've got nothing left to grow. And the kids that you're teaching today, you're preparing them for a future that you have not lived in. So how can you tell me that you don't need to grow, that you don't need to continue? You're preparing them for something you've never seen. So of course we've got to continue to grow, and we've got to do things with excellence to the best of our ability. As I said before, the Bible doesn't actually say the word phoenix. Although if somebody finds a version that does, I need you to text me and let me know. But, like I said, some people think that when you think about the phoenix, that it's sacrilegious because you're thinking about the rise. But again, like I said, it's not about the act of rising. It's not about the victory. It's about the posture. Micah 7:8, paraphrased in Carolyn language, says, you know what? I may have fallen. You saw me fall. But you know what else you're going to see? You're going to see me rise. That's what you're going to see next. Paraphrased. You want the real version? Micah 7:8. Carolyn version, you're going to see me rise. Just watch. People used to say in the old days, hide and watch. I never understood the hide part. I guess because, well, I guess I do. When you think about when you're watching somebody and they know that you're watching, behavior changes. But if you're hiding and watching, then you see the real them. So yeah. So yes, although I have fallen, I shall rise. Again, like I said, it's about a posture. And a posture is choice. A posture is choice. It's got nothing to do with victory. It's got nothing to do with one and done. It's not about saying, you know what, I have arrived. I've done everything I can do. No. It's about each and every day, in every moment of what I do, I'm going to choose to be the better person. That's how we rise. I'm going to choose to intentionally try to make your life better if I have the ability to do so. I'm going to choose to, although I don't like you, I'm going to choose to love you from afar and pray for you that you're going to be blessed. Not by me, but by somebody. Because I can love you, even if we aren't in relationship close together. And I'm going to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do so that I can give to somebody else. Your gifts, in whatever way that you've been gifted, because everyone's been gifted, your gifts are about how you can bring glory to the name of God and love your neighbor as yourself with what you've been given. We need to make sure that we understand that we need to steward what we have, like the parable of the talents. You've got to be good with the little bit that you've got if you expect to be able to get any more. And if you're sitting on your talents and not using them, are we being obedient to our calling? He did not give you your gifts for them to sit on the shelf, right? Will you stand for me, please? Stand for me where you are, please. If you will indulge me, I want you to think for a moment of an area in your life where you've been struggling, an area in your life where you've been on autopilot, an area in your life where, as Maya Angelou would say, you're just surviving. And I want you to think about it. You're not going to share it with anybody. I'm not going to call on anybody. I want you to think about that moment, that situation, that issue, And while you've got that in your mind, I want you to take one small step forward. Just one small step. Ladies, you've got the power within you. Why? Because you are the queen. You are the daughter of the King Most High. The same blood that rushed through Jesus' veins, the same spirit that's in each and one of us, each and every one of us. We may not be able to do all things on our own, but my God is mighty. My God is awesome. My God is all powerful. All he's asking you to do is to stand, choose to rise, be obedient, and take that next step. As the phoenix says, or as the phoenix symbolizes, ladies, feathers up. It's time to fly. We've got a cost. The cost is your courage. The cost is your comfort. But the gift, much like what Esther saw, much like what Ruth saw, the gift is so much greater. Just like the woman at the well. So if any of you are business people, you're thinking about your return on investment, your ROI, doesn't even compare. Doesn't even compare. Ladies, with me, we choose to rise. Ladies, we choose to rise. Say it like you mean it. We choose to rise because it's a choice. We choose to rise. As I mentioned earlier, you can take your seats. As I mentioned earlier, I needed some positivity in my life, and apparently I create those things when I can't find them. I'm putting on my first ever women's conference called the Women's Rise and Thrive Women's EmpowerCon. It will be March 28th, which is a Saturday. It's a full-day conference in Sango. I would love to say tickets are free, but I'm financing the entire thing on credit cards in my back pocket, so it's not free. It's a full day. There will be a total of 6 speakers, myself being one of 6. We will have a panel discussion. There's a wonderful person who will be playing the piano and singing. We will have vendors. We will have a day of empowering, of lifting each other up. So if you can come, if you're interested in coming, I would love to see you again and get an opportunity to meet with you again and talk with you. You can go to my website at onegoodhello.com. If you need the address and everything, my business cards are out there in the hallway, and so it's on there. As I mentioned earlier, yes, I know it's cliche, but as I mentioned earlier, I am a lifelong learner because I believe that we all are. If you would do me the favor of scanning that QR code and filling it out, you can help me continue to grow. You can help me to continue to thrive and learn and be able to improve so I can help other people. So if you would do me that favor of scanning that QR code and filling it out, I would be ever so grateful. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and spend the day with you guys here today, to be able to learn from you, to talk with you, to share my journey with you, and to hear a little bit about you guys in the same time. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time here, and I'm grateful. And I pray and hope that God has given you a word, something that you can hold on to, something that makes a difference. But if you remember nothing else, remember that your journey matters. If you remember nothing else, your journey matters, and your journey shapes what's going on in the rest of the world for everybody else. Without you, there's a missing piece. Thank you.